from informal settlements and single-parent households, the health risks associated with the same, and the measure that should be adopted in order to eradicate such malnutrition from our schooling environments. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member at the back there.
Deputy Speaker, I move on behalf of the Congress of the People that the House debate the root cause of the ills affecting local government, the reason for the failure of a turnaround strategy, and why the government is unable to provide the basic requirements for functional, accountable, responsive, effective, efficient, developmental and clean governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Member, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In its next sitting, the House shall debate ways to improve the living conditions of farm dwellers, including the provision of subsidized house and other basic services. And on the behalf of the ANC, so I move.
Thank you. Any other notices of motion? Yes, Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker, I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates strengthen South Africa postgraduate training in research and innovation as means of to improve the country's global competitiveness. Thank you.
Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House debate specific ways to create an enabling environment to ensure that agriculture creates 1 million jobs by 2030.
Thank you. Honourable Member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters for the House to debate in its next sitting the conditions and remuneration of mine workers.
Thank you. Honourable Trev Bonomi.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates strengthening measures to promote food security as a way to lessen our dependence on food imports. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable. Honourable Bengu.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I move on behalf of the African National Congress that in its next sitting, the House debates the growing, the small and medium-sized enterprise sector vigorously so that they can assist in economic growth and job creation. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. On behalf of the NFP, I move that during the next sitting of this House, we deliberate on the issue of high level of service delivery protests and apathy with regard to service delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You took on without being appointed, but that's okay. You've had yours. Let's hear you, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ika Maliti Alfagalis. Honourable Speaker, on behalf of the DA, I hereby give notice that at the next sitting of the National Assembly, that the House debates the employment of South African Democratic Teachers Union members by the IEC to run national, provincial and local government elections, given the alignment of SADC with the African National Congress, as well as public directives from SADC leaders to its members to work for the election of ANC candidates. I so move.
Honourable Member.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting the House debates strengthening organised crime fighting units to actively combat serious crimes such as human and drug trafficking.
Thank you. Honourable Matlo.
Thanks, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I move on behalf of the African National Congress that in its next sitting, the House debates addressing cross-border crime, including piracy, as well as counterfeit goods. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable James Lauren.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House debates effective methods of preventing lengthy strikes in the mining sector and the impact that prolonged strikes have on our economy.
Thank you. Honourable Lekota. Thank you, Honourable Member.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I will move in the next sitting of the House that we debate the role of the presiding officers, the honorable members of the House, to maintain and strengthen the decorum of the House so that Parliament plays its appropriate role in raising the stature of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Let's now move to motions without notice. Motions without notice. Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes with great sadness the passing on of Major T.J. Maila, Captain M.L. Wemby, and Captain Francois Hugo, 3 South African Air Force members killed in a tragic aircraft crash in Mpumalanga on Tuesday, the 17th of June, 2014 in Leidenburg. Further notes that two of their colleagues, Sergeant C.B. Mabusela and Corporal G.D. Ramasilo, who were also in that aircraft, are critically injured and remain in hospital. Believes that the deceased died in line of duty while they were participating in an operation training camp in Leidenburg areas. We acknowledge their commitment and sacrifice in their service to the country, as well as the subsequent pledge to sacrifice their lives for the defense of the country and its people. We welcome the idea of the formation of a board of inquiry to investigate and determine the cause of the incident so that families can find closure as well as prevent this incident from happening again. And we convey our condolences to the families of the deceased and their friends and wishes the injured soldiers a speedy recovery. I thank you.
Thank you. If there are no objections, I put the motion. Any objections? None. Agreed to. Are there any further motions without notice? Honorable Likota.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker, I will move in the next sitting of the House on behalf of the Congress of the People.
Oh, hookah. No, we are done with those kind of motions. We are now on motions without notices. Sorry,
No,
sir.
excuse
That
me,
should
sir.
have been earlier on, yeah. Thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead, honorable member.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House, one, notes on the 5th of May 2014, the South African National Blood Service lifted the ban on gay men in South Africa donating blood. Further notes that a new non-discriminatory policy has now been put in place that favors people in monogamous relationships regardless of sexuality. Acknowledges that the old policy made it nearly impossible for gay men to donate blood and was widely criticized as being discriminatory. Hereby congratulates the SANBS for their progressive efforts in treating all South Africans fairly and equally, and encourages all healthy South Africans between the ages of 16 and 65 who lead a sexually safe lifestyle to participate in the vital community service of donating blood regularly.
Thank you. Are there any objections to that motion? No objection. Agreed to. First motion on the order. Is there any other? Yes, Honorable James.
Deputy Speaker, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes the passing of American author, poet, and human rights activist Maya Angelou on the 28th of May, 2014. Further notes that Ms. Angelou was a Wordsworth warrior of great distinction for equality, tolerance, and peace, and that in her work she bound South Africans and Americans together in a powerful thread of struggle and resolve for justice. Acknowledges that the world has lost one of the greatest writers of the American civil rights era. Further acknowledges her role in the struggle for justice, education, and equality, and convey our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Ms. Maya Angelou. May she rest in peace. I thank you.
Thank you. If there are no objections, Okay. Agreed to. Any other motion? Honourable Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes with sadness the passing on of 47-year-old Metro FM DJ and radio legend of 18 years, Eddie Makosonke Zondi, on Sunday, the 15th of June, 2014. Further notes that Mr. Zondi passed on after complaining of chest pains and was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Believes that Eddie Zondi will be fondly remembered for his romantic selection of music during his program on Sundays afternoons on Metro FM. Further believes that South Africa has lost a man whose music legacy will forever live on in their hearts for generations to come. We acknowledge his invaluable contribution to the music industry, and we convey our condolences to Zondi's family, friends, and fans. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other notice without motion? None. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that on Friday, the 20th of June, 2014, South Africa's Baby Box played against England in the final of the Junior World Cup Championship in New Zealand. Also notes that the Baby Box only just missed out on a consecutive World Cup win after being narrowly beaten by England 21-20. Acknowledges that the Baby Box performance throughout the tournament is a clear indication of the wealth of young talent that is being developed at schools and clubs across our country. Congratulates the coach, Davi Turon, on his team's impressive performance throughout the tournament, beating host New Zealand twice in their own backyard. And further congratulates the entire team for flying our nation's flag high and making South Africa proud. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no objections, agreed to. So the humanity that they got close on that.
Deputy Speaker, I move without notice that this House take note of the fact that Sister Mary Paul Tark, an 82-year Catholic nun, was hijacked in Mthatha last week, raped and murdered. Sister Mary Paul devoted years and years of her life in educating many African children in Mariazell Institute. Amongst those she produced is our very Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Minister. Can you please rise so they recognize you? That at the time of her brutal death, she was working with homeless orphans and children without homes in the area of Libode in Mthatha. Sister Mary Paul is a household name in the history of the education of Africans in this country, and this House must condemn without reserve violence against women, in particular against a defenseless 82-year-old woman such as herself. Thank you.
If there's no objection, agreed to. Okay. Before we move to the first motion on the paper. Oh, okay. Thank you, all right.
I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes South African hockey legend P.T. Coetzee's retirement from all forms of competitive hockey. Further notes that she holds the record as the all-time international leading goal scorer in hockey with 282 goals. Acknowledges that P.T. made her international debut in 1995 and was named South African Hockey Player of the Year in 1997 and again in 2002. Wishes her well in higher retirement from serving the national hockey team with distinction over a record-breaking total of 287 test matches, and congratulates her for being a great servant of sport in South Africa. I hereby.
Thank you very much. If there's no objection, agreed to. Honorable members, the practice is that your motions are supposed to be consulted among the whips. But since there hasn't been any objection to any motion, please do send them, give them to service officers to pass them on to the table here. They know where to take them to. Thank you very much. I was saying before I go to the first. One more, okay. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House, 1, notes the incredible work that the Lungusani Ndlela village is playing in caring and nurturing for orphan children in KwaZulu-Natal. 2, further notes that models of partnerships between government, business, and faith-based organizations such as LIVE can make a difference in bettering our society. 3, recognizes that government alone cannot deal with the estimated 5 million orphans in South Africa. And 4, congratulates the founders of LIVE, Mr. Titch and Mrs. Jones-Smith, on their dedication to bettering the lives of orphans in South Africa. I hereby move.
Thank you very much. If there's no objection, agreed to. Is there another one, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip?
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I move without notice that the House welcomes the victory of the Springboks in their defeat of Wales in Bombela Stadium on Saturday, the 21st of June, 2014. Remembers that while the touring side of Wales played with unbridled vigour, the Boks dug deep to snatch victory in the dying minutes of the encounter. Recalls that the penalty try awarded to South Africa after a shoulder charge by Wales fullback Alex Williams on Cornel Hendricks ultimately led to the 31-30 victory. And we congratulate the Springboks for the character they showed in never giving up and in chasing victory until the very last seconds of the game. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's no objection, agreed to. Honorable members, I just want to voice a word of welcome to people in the gallery. We especially appreciate it because when we do it, it is often because there are big people in the gallery. But everybody who comes here makes us feel proud that this institution is yours, and your presence confirms that in a big way. Thank you very much for joining us. We now come to the first motion on the order paper in the name of the Chief Whip.
On behalf, sorry, I know the Deputy Speaker, I really apologize. I move that the House resumes the proceedings on the Financial Management of Parliament Amendment Bill from the stage it reached on the last sitting day of the 6th session of the 4th Parliament. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections to that? No objection, agreed to. Second motion on the other paper. In the name of the Chief Whip, Honourable Chief Whip.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I move that notwithstanding the hours of sitting of the House as provided for in Rule 23, subsection 2, the extended public committees may sit as agreed to by the National Assembly Program Committee. I so move.
Are there any objections to that proposal? No objection, agreed to. The last motion on the order paper. The last motion on the order paper, the Honourable Chief Whip.
I move that the House resolves that the sequence of parties to make member statements today be as follows: ANC, DA, EFF, ANC, IFP, Group 1, which will consist of NFP, COPE, ANC, Group 2, UDM, ACDP, and AHANG SA, and then ANC, DA, ANC, Group 3, FF+, AIC, PAC, APC, ANC, DA, and ANC. I so move.
Okay, any objection? No objection, agreed to. The next item on the order paper is member statements. Does any member of the ANC wish to make a statement? Yes, honorable member.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress welcomes the recent agreement to end the 5-month-long platinum strike in the platinum mining sector, which is expected to be signed today, Tuesday. The workers' unions announced on Monday that the 5-month platinum sector strike was officially over, and it would sign wage agreements with the platinum producers on Tuesday, 24th June. On Monday, about 20,000 union members met at the Royal Bafokeng Sports Palace in Phokeng near Rustenburg and endorsed wage settlement that would increase the basic salary of the lowest paid worker by 1,000 over 3 years, excluding other benefits. The end of the strike would pave the way for peace and stability to be restored and for mining operation to return to full productivity. The resolution of the strike averted what could have become a human catastrophe, even though the economy had already suffered. As the ANC, we pledge our support for the healing process that needs to unfold in the aftermath of the violence and losses suffered during the protracted strike. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. DA?
Deputy Speaker, the Democratic Alliance welcomes the resolution similarly of the strike in the platinum sector. We call on all parties to implement the agreement to ensure that the dignity of workers is restored and that production can return to normal so that we can continue to create jobs as a country. But Speaker, the strike must be a lesson for this government. We must re-examine the Labour Relations Amendment Bill and allow for the democratization of labour relations so that members of unions can have both the right to strike and the right to work if they so choose. This requires once and for all the reintroduction of the secret ballot before a strike is called. I call on the Minister of Labour, Honourable Mildred Oliphant, to do what she wouldn't do in the last section of Parliament, bring the Labour Relations Bill back and let us fix it in the interests of our workers and in creating jobs for the millions of people that are still stuck in poverty in South Africa. We further call on the President to put his money where his mouth is and to put into action his promise of government action on workers' living conditions, such as housing, etc. South Africa has the worst labour relations currently in the world. Let's make the changes we need to get people working. I thank you.
Thank you. EFF.
Ndiyanibulisa, mna ndifuna ukuqonda kahle kahle kubani ophumelele eMarikana. Ingaba ngabasebenzi noba ngamakapitali. Kwisona sabuza umbuzo CEFF okokuba kuphethe bani, i-political power or kuphethe amakapitali. Ngoba izidingo zabasebenzi azikafezeki. Babuyele emsebenzini ngenxa yendlala. Okutsho ukuthi indlala yomntu omnyama isetyenziswa ngurhulumente ukunyanzelisa uyathanda noba awuthandi. Honourable Chairperson of Labour Committee, Mrs. Yengeni, le ndlala yaba bantu yindlala yeenyanga ezinhlanu. Ibingaqali phofu ngoba bebetoyitoya nje yile mali engabonakaliyo, engazoneliyo izidingo zabo. Umbuzo omnye ke wena rhulumente njengomkhuseli wabasebenzi uphi uthini xa kunje? Hayi nditsho awini la makapitali eMarikana. Imali iphume eMarikana iyotshona le eLondon babe bona bayisebenzayo bekekela ukuya emakhayeni ngezisu ezithe nca emqolo. Kube kusithiwa mabavuyele urhulumente omnyama. Babhubha abasebenzi befela intlupheko kodwa akabikho tshintsho. Indlala, izindlu, amanzi akunandlela.
Honourable Member, just 1 second.
Yes, on a point of order, I just wanted to check, is it question time or is it statements? Because the member is clearly asking a question and not making a statement.
It's a manner of speaking. Thank you very much. She's already finished anyway. ANC?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress welcomes the intervention by the government when the community of Lwandle, next to N2 Highway near Somerset West, was evicted recently. Both the National Ministers of Transport and Human Settlement and their deputies visited Lwandle before Mayor of Cape Town and the city intervened. The South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL, evicted part of Lwandle informal settlements and the city of Cape Town. it did not make any arrangements for temporary accommodation of the evicted people. When the people of Lwandle needed the mayor and the premier, they both abandoned them. The mayor of Cape Town and the premier issued public statements that it is not their responsibility, but that of national government agencies, central and national government. People of Lwandle suffered terribly during those cold and rainy days of eviction. Their shacks were demolished and set alight. Many lost their personal possessions and were left with nothing but the clothes that they were wearing. Through the intervention of national government, the people of Lwandle are moving out of the cold community halls. Emergency housing is being provided on the land and they were evicted from as a temporary measure. They will be then integrated to the housing programs of the city of Cape Town. The Housing Development Agency is leading the intervention of national government.
Thank you,
the national government will finalize in the coming days. Oh,
Sorry, Honourable Member, please term yourself properly. It's not nice to do this. IFP, IFP.
Thank you, Deputy Honourable Speaker. The Inkatha Freedom Party supports calls by the Shugumisa Campaign and Community Law Center of the Western Cape for the assurance by government that programs and legislation put forward during the 4th Parliament by the Department of Women, Children and People with Disabilities be continued with and not allowed to lapse. Our women continue to face a barrage of crises such as gender-based violence, workplace discrimination, occupational segregation, gender-based wage gaps, and many more issues that require urgent government attention. The IFP calls upon this 5th Democratic Parliament to prioritize the welfare of women, to ensure that their rights are protected, and to adopt a women-centered approach in this Parliament. Our women deserve nothing less. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. NFP.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the NFP wishes to applaud AMCU, workers and employers of Lonmin, Anglo, American Platinum and Impala Platinum, for reaching an agreement which in effect brought about an end to the strike that took 5 months. The NFP commends mine workers for relentlessly and steadfastly standing and fighting for their rights. The NFP is gratified that about 70,000 mine workers will now resume work. The employers, it is hoped, will do everything to ensure that mine workers become shareholders of the wealth that is generated from the mining industry. Decent family houses and other benefits are provided to mine workers. The employers and producers must also ensure that the people who reside in the proximity of mines benefit by way of being provided with clinics, schools, and that issues of sanitation and environmental awareness are attended to, and that the government ensures that there's conducive environment that is created even for the mining and engineering sectors to come back to the negotiation table. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. ANC.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress congratulates Bongumusa Mthembu for winning the Comrades Marathon in the year 2014, which was held in KwaZulu-Natal recently. The triumph of Mthembu in the 89th Comrades Marathon of about 89 kilometers downhill is remarkable in a race known for testing one's endurance and strength. We are happy for young Bongumusa that in the month where we celebrated the youth, he has won this title on behalf of youth and that his name has been registered in history books as one of the most outstanding ultramarathon runners internationally. We are also happy as the African National Congress, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that we as a sporting nation were able to secure 7 spaces in the top 10 and that 3 of our runners were in the top 3. We congratulate Luke Witt, Mama Bolo, who came 2nd, and Gift Kahele, who came 3rd. We also call on the business community to sponsor the various athletic clubs so that we can ensure the development of our athletes. I thank you.
Thank you very much. UDM.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the United Democratic Movement is concerned about the drug situation in El Dorado Park, south of Johannesburg. As a result, children who are sent to rehabilitation centers keep going back on drugs and are further in and out of jail and hospital, of which could be avoided if drugs would be eradicated. This is caused in part by the rehabilitation centers that are not up to standard. There is very little visibility of police in the area, and there are allegations that some of them work with the drug dealers. Despite the fact that there were promises made to provide better rehabilitation centers in the area, as well as factories to alleviate poverty, none of these have been established. The United Democratic Movement calls on government to intervene very strongly as order needs to be restored in El Dorado Park. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ANC believe that over last 20 years of freedom, South Africa has made great strides in supporting young South Africans so that they can actively participate in the mainstream economy. As such, the ANC supports the initiative of the Northwest for municipalities of Tswaying, Mamusa, Makwasi Hills, and Moretele for setting up the project that stands to benefit 100 young people. The project is funded through the Extended Public Works Program grant and is focusing on waste management, which include waste recycle or removal in areas such as schools, sidewalks, parks, and central business district, among others. The project will run over a period of 10 months. At the end of the project, the young people will receive certificate of competence in basic waste management as well as monthly stipend. The ANC believes that this project will assist municipalities to raise awareness about waste management and encourage youth to take part in waste management ventures whilst creating temporary employment for young people. This supports the ANC policy assertion of increasing the number of training and skills opportunities for young people throughout the state-owned enterprise and other government entities. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. DA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Recent allegations in the media around the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Nkasana, raise serious concerns, not only with regard to the process followed in appointing this National Director, but also with regard to whether the NPA is being abused to advance political ends. ANC Chief Whip, the Honourable Stan Sizani, was empowered by Parliamentary Rule 2231 to urgently constitute the Justice Portfolio Committee so that this matter could immediately be investigated. He did nothing. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is deeply concerning that neither the ANC in Parliament nor members of the Executive have taken any steps since the start of this crisis to resolve the matter. Where is President Zuma? Why has there still been no action on these serious allegations? With every passing day, the reputation of one of the most important state institutions is diminished. But this should not surprise us. Until such stage as the ANC respects the independence of the NPA, it will stumble from one crisis to another. If we as Parliament do nothing, we will be equally implicated in the scandalous state of affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC.
Deputy Speaker, we were shocked and dismayed as the African National Congress when, after the recent elections, the Honorable DA MP Mike Walters posted on his Twitter account depictions of ANC voters as dogs. What is even more worrying, Deputy Speaker, is that the DA sees
Order,
nothing
members,
wrong with
order.
this. They have never even called this member of that party to apologize for this disrespectful remark. This is a terrible behavior on a part of any member of this legislature. This is not only racist and disrespectful to South African voters, but Deputy Speaker, it is our view that it is also showing disrespect to the voters and has brought disrepute to this House. It will therefore be prudent and appropriate for this House, through its relevant committee, to take action against Mr. Walters for bringing disrepute to this House. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. FF Plus.
Agbare Young Speaker, in die aanloop van die verkiesing het die agbare minister van grondhervorming, die agbare Nkwinti, uitsprake gemaak in terme van grondhervorming en aangekondig dat hulle met 'n 50% aandele skema gaan kom in terme van grondherverdeling. Agbare Adjunct Speaker, die Vryheidsfront Plus wil sê dit was 'n onverantwoordelike uitspraak gewees. Dit is uitsprake wat nie behoorlik deurdag is nie, want hierdie tipe van voorstelle skep totale onsekerheid in die landbougemeenskap. Die boere kom na ons toe en sê nou gaan hulle eerder boer in Australië en ander lande, want daar is onsekerheid of hulle nog hulle grond het. Dit het ook 'n nadelige effek op kommersiële banke wat produksielenings toestaan aan boere, maar waar die grond dan as sekuriteit moet dien, dan nou bevraagteken word in terme van daardie sekuriteit. Ons doen 'n beroep op die ANC om eers te verseker dat die grondherverdelingsgronde wat alreeds gedoen is, waarvan die minister erken het dat 90% 'n mislukking was, eers 'n sukses gemaak word, alvorens daar verder gegaan word met verdere grondherverdeling. Tweedens sê die Vryheidsfront Plus dat die agbare minister moet asseblief vir ons nou die grondaudit bring, laat ons kan sien hoeveel wit boere het kommersiële landbougrond en hoeveel swartes het kommersiële landbougrond. Want as dit nie daar is nie, kan hy nie teiken stel nie, want dan tas hy in die duister en voel hy in die wolkies rond. Dankie.
Is tyd is oor. DA? No, ANC. ANC?
Deputy Speaker, ANC yi tlangela lembe ra 59 ra Freedom Charter. Vandla ra ANC ri kombela nakambe vaaki va tiko ku tlangela tsalo ra Freedom Charter hi ti 26 ta June tanihi xitsundzuxo xa malembe ya 59 yi ri kona. Vandla ra ANC ri teka Freedom Charter tanihi pulani leyi yi yimelaka ntsakelo ni swilaveko swa vaaki tiko va Afrika-Dzonga tanihi xivono lexi xi hambaneke na tipolicy ta xikhale ta apartheid. Drawn in the dark days of apartheid rule under difficult times and conditions in the history of our country, the Freedom Charter was not only formulated as a basic demand for human and political rights, it was also a document that spelled out the kind of society that was envisaged to replace apartheid, including ideals such as sharing of wealth of the country and adequate housing, education, and health care for all. Thus, 59th anniversary of the Freedom Charter provides an adequate opportunity for all South Africans to celebrate and take pride in the achievement of freedom that we are enjoying now, as we continue our journey to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, prosperous and democratic South Africa. A South Africa that belongs to all who live in it, black and white, united in diversity as stipulated in the Freedom Charter. The ANC believes,
Thank you, sir.
Viva ANC, Viva Freedom Charter.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The DA.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The DA condemns the violent and inhumane way in which SANRAL, an entity of the National Department of Transport, evicted people from their homes in Lwandle in the city of Cape Town. It is unacceptable that SANRAL chose to evict people without making the necessary arrangements to accommodate them. It is a disgrace that SANRAL chose to carry out these evictions in the middle of winter, right in the middle of a particularly cold spell in Cape Town. We commend the city of Cape Town for the excellent work it did to clean up the chaos caused by SANRAL. The city of Cape Town had to step in and provide temporary accommodation, food, and blankets. We also condemn the manner in which the Human Settlements Minister attempted to score political points in the aftermath of SANRAL's acts. Her actions were politically motivated, proven by the fact that she ignored other violent evictions that took place in Bukamuso in the Free State, the very week she had attempted to shift the blame for Lwandle. This was an inhumane exercise carried out to make space for SANRAL's destructive e-tolling plans for the Western Cape. We will continue to fight to make sure every South African can live in dignity and free from e-tolling.
Thank you. ANC.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the ANC welcomes the handing over of 100 RDP houses by the city of Johannesburg to shack dwellers of Elias Ntwaleti informal settlement in Soweto. The houses measure 40 square meters and boast insulated ceilings to keep them warm when the temperature drops and keep them cool in summer. There is a concrete apron around the house to channel rainwater instead of the commonly used gutters, downpipes, and rainwater channels. The handing over of the houses has restored dignity to the beneficiaries of Elias Ntwaleti informal settlement. The beneficiaries will no longer be vulnerable to the wet and cold weather, as well as experience the difficulties of flooding in their shacks. This initiative is in line with the ANC policy assertion, which ensures that all South Africans live in decent conditions in suitable human settlement, and will further contribute to 1 million housing opportunities for qualifying households over the next 5 years. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. That concludes member statements. Are there any ministerial responses? Honourable Member, the last time I checked, you were not on that list. Honourable Oliphant, Minister of Labour.
Thank you very much, Sekela Somlom. Sonke asithi siyabonga ukuthi isiteleka saseyimayeni siphelile. But Deputy Speaker, kunama questions awu-4 aqondene nomnyango wakwa-Labour, and I believe ukuthi uzonginikeza ama-minutes accordingly. Firstly, let me respond to umhlonishwa u-Olis. Ngithi 1, abasebenzi banelungelo lokuteleka. Faneke afunde section 26(2) of the Constitution yaseMzansi Afrika kanye no 36(2) onikeza ilungelo labasebenzi ukuthi baye esitelekeni uma bengezwananga nabaqashi. And okwesibili, kune Labour Relations Act la eMzansi Afrika okuyona eguide abasebenzi ukuthi uma bexoxisana nabaqashi kufanele baxoxisane kanjani. And therefore, since beclaima ke iDA ukuthi vikela iConstitution, you must respect the Constitution and respect even the Bill of Rights. And okwesibili Somlomo, manifesto ye-ANC is very clear ukuthi we must investigate the modalities of the national minimum wage, of which we have started as the Department of Labour to do so. We're doing together with our social partners, and I do believe that the members understand ukuthi network isebenza kanjani nama social partners, and we don't take our decisions alone as the Department of Labour. And umhlonishwa une-experience ye-ILO. I think other members kofanele avale imlomo yawo alalele ukuthi kuthiwani ngoba awazi at least umnumzana Olis uke wa participate even kwi-ILO. Okwesithathu, ngithe somlomo ngizophendula imibuzo ewu4. Ngathi ngicela umhlonishwa nginikeze ama-minutes accordingly. Also kune bargaining framework agreement esizoyilandela. Signed by all the unions and the employers. And okwesibili kune agreement on central collective bargaining okwavunyelwana ngayo between the platinum mining companies and the unions last year, including AMCU, but yayisicela ukuthi icela ukuvunyelwa ukuthi negotiate with the 3 individual companies, and that's why kube naleyo sivumelwano.
All right, ma'am.
And ngicabanga ukuthi umhlonishwa kufuneka ngantazi ne rules book, nami ngiyawazi ama rules of this house. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Just to confirm that to the Honorable Member from the DA, that indeed the matter of the NDPP is in hand and is being dealt with in the executive sphere of government. And it would be highly premature for him to propose that the matter serve before this House. Don't you know separation of powers? The law prescribes the manner in which the matter is to be dealt with. It is supposed to be dealt with in the executive sphere. So what's your problem? Anyway, just to confirm that in due course, we shall be in a position to take members of the public into confidence that at that point, of course, the DA would also be appraised as to the developments with regard to the matter. So stop politicking about things and speculating about things which are not before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Babu Nkwinti. Kan u dit in Afrikaans sê?
Nee, meneer die adjunct Deputy Speaker. Ek gaan nie in Afrikaans praat nie. I will speak in this clause. And English. The white ox has got all the pastures. The black ox has nowhere to graze. John Langalibalele Dube, the first president of the African National Congress in 1913, responding to this law, the Natives Land Act. The situation remains practically the same. So we cannot, it is unsustainable, we can't go on with it. Secondly, land shall be shared among those who live in it, who work it rather. 1955. That is the people of South Africa in the Freedom Charter. So we have been bending over backwards as black people, particularly the African people in the country. It's time that all of us took responsibility for progress for all South Africans. Because South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Now, the racial and national disaggregation of the land audit is happening. We're busy with that. We've done quite a lot of work with regards to particularly the Western Cape to start with, because it's easy to deal with that. It's easy to deal with that. Lastly, I had said in 2010-2011 financial year, I said I agreed that 95% of land which was restored to people is unproductive. That was about 4 years ago. Today, 27% of that land is productive. In fact, over the last 3 years, we produced at least 3 millionaires, people who've got cash in the bank. They are black. We are actually rekindling the class of black commercial farmers, which was destroyed by the 1913 Natives Land Act. Thank you very much.
Any other ministerial responses? Honorable Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. Members have raised the issues of transformation in the mining industry as a major issue that needs to be looked at. Maybe what we should do, just to take members back, that in 2002, this House passed the MPRDA as the major transformation legislation to ensure that there is this transformation in the mining industry. And then in 2004, we started a process of enacting a process of 10 years where we gave employers, mining employers in this country, to ensure that there is proper ownership distribution, and we put a target of at least 26%. And that 10 years has ended in May this year. So it's imperative that we know that the law is on our side to ensure that the single hostels are actually converted into family units or bachelor's flats. The question of skills and representation of black people in the senior management of mining is accomplished, and the issues of procurement. So we are busy monitoring, as we have been in the last 5 years, to ensure that there is total compliance. We also want to ensure that all the bottlenecks that have been created by municipalities, because some of the problems that the mining industry has complained about were the issues of regulatory issues in the municipalities, to ensure that they deal with the housing issues. Some are genuine. So I must just say that a lot of them have done very well, but there are those that are still lagging behind. We are quite determined as the Department of Mineral Resources to ensure that there is total transformation and we enforce compliance of what the law provides. We also want to thank those who participated in ensuring into the end of the strike, because the institutions of government and others, especially in the Department of Labor, have ensured the success as well, and the unions and the bosses. And thanks to the members for raising this matter, because it's quite important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other ministerial responses? That concludes ministerial responses, and the Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Tributes to the late Mr. M.B. Coetzee, Secretary to Parliament.
Honorable members, I recognize Honorable Masondo. I believe it is the honorable member's maiden speech.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present here today, honorable members, the Coetzee family, guests and citizens. Honorable members, I, like many others, was shocked and sad when I heard of Mike's passing, despite having known that he had been suffering from cancer for a long time. Siyayisithi-ke ukufa akujwayeleki. Hardly any family in the world is spared from death. Yet every time it occurs, we're left with pain and hurt. I've known Mike as an activist of long standing for many, many years. And he was, in my eyes, especially in later years, an exceptional cadre located in the administration and management of Parliament, pursuing the same struggle, a better quality of life for all South Africans in general, and the working class and the poor in particular. To the family we say, akwehlanga lungehlanga, akwehlanga lungehliyo, izinyembezi zenu nathi ngezethu. Njengoba kwenziwa kuqhutshwa sithi-ke asigcwale emswaneni. Please find solace in the fact that his life was lived to the full, and he fought the scourge of cancer with all the courage he could muster, and did so with dignity to the end. Deputy Speaker, so much has been said about this son of the soil, about his engagement and participation in the struggle for national liberation.
So much has been said about his exposure to the Black consciousness organizations in his youth and his involvement in setting up a South African student movement branch. And what is described in his obituary as a crucial influence in shaping his progressive consciousness, namely the death and detention of Steve Bantu Biko in 1977. His participation as a BSc student in the University of the Western Cape, known to many in those days as Bush, in political recruitment of students and the clandestine discussion and reading groups and the spread of the message of the Freedom Charter as espoused by the ANC and the never-ending debates on Marxism-Leninism and the understanding of the theory of the revolution and organization. His graduation organically from student politics or student activities into more mature political action, such as the consumer boycotts as experienced in the red meat, the Fettes and Moniz boycott, and later his participation in the Hanover Park Civic Association that became part of the Cape Housing Action Committee, popularly known as CAHAC. So much has been said about his recruitment into the ANC underground in 1981, his critical, unassuming approach and conduct in the process that led to the formation of the United Democratic Front, working closely with comrades like Henry Fazi, Derek Schwartz, Annette Stoffele, Gugile Nkwinti, Stone Sizane, and Matthew Goniwe, and many, many others, following the historic call by the then president of the ANC, Oliver Reginald Tambo. We all know of that fateful day of the 27th of June when Matthew Goniwe, Fort Kalata, Skalom Shaul, and Sparom Kondo were assassinated by the security police and their bodies mutilated and burned beyond recognition. The subsequent display at their funeral in Craddock of the flags of the Communist Party and the ANC that were unfurled in unparalleled display of defiance and the declaration of the state of emergency in 1985, renewed in 1986, 87, and 1988. At that time, Deputy Speaker, thousands of people were detained and many were severely tortured. Mike was one of them. As we heard in the memorial service and at the funeral, he was hung over the Van Staden Bridge, and in his words, quote, to instill the fear of God so that you would reveal what they wanted, close quote. Mike was, as we know, also part of the Chemical Industrial Workers Union and an affiliate of FOSATU, and helped to nudge this federation towards the formation of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU. Deputy Speaker, it would not be an exaggeration to say that all along, Mike had distinguished himself as a selfless cadre who acted in the interest of his country and people. A man whose integrity remained intact to the end. There is so much to learn and emulate a win-win solution. Mark being part of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the South African National Parliament speaks volumes about his ability to be relevant and play a meaningful role in different periods of the struggle for national liberation. This he did without losing sight of the context. Madam Speaker, this National Assembly is elected to represent the people and to ensure a government by the people under our Constitution. It does this by choosing the president, providing a national forum or platform for public consideration of issues, by passing legislation and scrutinizing and overseeing executive action. Deputy Speaker, this legislature broadly ensures the making of laws, public involvement and participation, as well as accountability. We can only truly guarantee the legacy of Michael Benjamin Coetzee by doing all the things he lived and died for. Let us continue to improve the quality of life of all our citizens and ensure the potential of each person. Let us build a united and democratic South Africa, a South Africa that truly belongs to all who live in it. So we salute Mike, the militant young man, the community activist, the social political agitator, the committed administrator, the radical humanist. Sitiyebo, ziyofa izinsizwa nezintombi eAfrika, kodwa ziyosala isibongo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Kalyan.
House Chairperson, it is with much sadness and a very heavy heart that I stand here today on behalf of the Democratic Alliance to pay tribute to Mr. Michael Benjamin Coetzee, who passed away after a courageous battle with cancer. When I learned of his passing, I contacted a senior official to confirm it, and her reply was, "It is a sad day for the administration of Parliament." I echo that statement and would like to add that we as parliamentarians are also poorer for this loss. Each of us who knew, worked, and socialized with Mr. Coetzee had our own individual relationship with him. When I met him some 15 years ago, I was intrigued by his self-confidence and self-assuredness and wondered at the source of it. As I came to know him, I discovered that the confidence came from his vast and comprehensive knowledge. He was a highly efficient person who understood his job and what was required of him. His experience in different work sectors and his impressive struggle credentials equipped him well for the task at hand. His work ethic was impeccable, and he was a disciplinarian of note. He did not let the controversy of his predecessor deter him, and in a short space of time, he restored full confidence to the office of the Secretary of Parliament in a quiet and dignified manner. What particularly endeared me to him was his unfailing courtesy, humility, and fairness. Michael handled his diagnosis of cancer in the same way as he did his work. He was both pragmatic and realistic as the disease progressed, and he explored all the treatment options available to him. Although the disease ravaged his body, causing him huge pain and discomfort, he remained resolute, upbeat, and cheerful. I could see his labored breathing and slow footsteps as he led the procession into the chamber on the 21st of May when we were being sworn in. And in my heart, I knew it was just a matter of time before he succumbed to his illness. You know, the body and the mind are incredibly intricate machines, and it was sheer willpower and dedication to his job which got him through that day. Every single one of us seated here today knows of someone or has lost someone dear to cancer. This disease calls on your inner strength in huge doses. It not only ravages the body, but it also takes its toll on the family as well. It's not easy to see your loved one suffering the after effects of chemotherapy, or them going bald or lose their appetite, and their strength. He spoke often about his family's support, and to Bridget, his wife, I want to say, he was so proud of your achievements and the fact that he gave you the space to soar. I believe that he was truly the wind beneath your wings. To Matthew, his son, he spoke so proudly of you as well, and I don't think you could have asked for a more loving and dedicated dad. Chairperson, I'm proud to say that Mr. Coetzee enriched my life, and it's truly a pleasure to have counted him not only as a work colleague, but as a friend too. Dear Michael, your work here is done, my friend. You wore your illness like a badge of honor. I know that your spirit will guide and look over us. And knowing you, you are probably mobilizing and signing up all the angels in heaven for some cause or the other. May your soul rest in peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Gardier.
Honourable Chair of Chairs, the Economic Freedom Fighters extends its heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family, colleagues and associates of the late Mr. Michael Coetzee, a combatant and a fighter to the end. Lalani ngelinceba baka Coetzee, tutu nine bekunene. Going through his obituary at the memorial service we attended last week, it is clear that a spear has fallen. Many spears have fallen ever since the time of land dispossession and wars of resistance, and some of those spears were not worth picking up. However, this is one spear that must be picked up, just like the spears of our struggle heroes and fighters, Ngungunyane, Yinza, Dingane, and Sekhukhune, and many other great martyrs of our heroic struggle. In the short stint of time and our presence in Parliament, we came to conclude that Mr. Michael Coetzee represented the epitome of non-partisan public servant conduct. Despite his roots in the life and culture of the party whom the Economic Freedom Fighters contested robustly, he conducted himself impartially, non-hostile and unbiased to the glorious movement of the left. Of particular mention is his readiness to go the extra mile assisting the Economic Freedom Fighters advance team long before other parties landed in Parliament for swearing-in ceremony. He directed his officials to leave no stone unturned in ensuring that the EFF is well-orientated prior to the actual onboarding training of new members. The Economic Freedom Fighters is proud of his legacy and look forward to continuation of same by his team of Mr. Mkaso, Advocate Pindela, Mr. Mahlangu, Mr. Nkuna, and Mrs. Linda Harper, whom she instructed and directed to leave no stone unturned in assisting the Economic Freedom Fighters. Once upon a time, there lived a man called Methulas. He was born and lived for 969 years. He died, and that's all what could be said of him. However, in Commissar Michael Coetzee, a commissar of the glorious underground structures trained in Lesotho, no words, pages, and time are enough to fully write his story. We dip our banner in salute of a fallen hero. From Walt Whitman, I read, "My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse, no will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes with object won. Exalt, O shores, and ring, O bells. But I, with mournful tread, walk the deck, my captain lies, fallen cold and dead." We thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Singh.
Honourable Chairperson and honourable colleagues.
On behalf of the IFP, I pay tribute to a remarkable man who served our nation with distinction. Having listened to the words spoken at last week's memorial service, there is no doubt that the late Secretary to Parliament played a significant role in establishing and strengthening democracy. During the memorial service, I had the privilege of expressing the IFP's admiration for Mr. Coetzee. I noted that his passing was somehow unexpected, for even though he was waging a long fight against cancer, he was always available, always in the office, and always hard at work. So we often forgot that his health was not what it should be. Cancer didn't slow him down, but neither did it make him self-focused or less patient with those around him. We in the IFP experienced his cordial efficiency time and again, and we admired the way he performed his duties with such dignity and fairness. Having already expressed our admiration and our deepest condolences, I would like to honor Mr. Michael Coetzee today by challenging us to fight for individuals like him, those who are fighting for their lives against a formidable but beatable disease. Millions of South Africans are living with cancer, and many are dying, not because of cancer, but because of its treatment. This is close to my heart, for I lost both my parents to cancer, while my wife and mother-in-law are in remission. I know that many in this house can relate to this, for you yourselves would have friends or relatives that have also gone through this dreaded disease. Honorable Chairperson, cancer is set to claim more lives than HIV and AIDS. It is fast becoming the pandemic of this generation. Yet the medical profession has found no cure and is treating cancer with a standard protocol that has proven ineffective, generally debilitating, and often fatal. Our laws will not allow them to look elsewhere or try something new, even in the face of promising results. Thus, the IFP, through the Honorable Dr. Mariano Ambrosini, is challenging this House to change the legislation. We are challenging government to adopt and consider the Medical Innovation Bill and pilot it to implementation. The bill enables doctors to offer alternative treatments to people like Mr. Coetzee, who could not be cured by conventional treatment, but may have been helped to live longer and more comfortably if the law had allowed it. This bill is not just about decriminalizing and liberalizing cannabis for medical and industrial use. It's about allowing the Minister of Health to authorize, establish, and resource pilot innovative cancer treatment centers where doctors are allowed to administer innovative, unproven, but harmless cancer wherever other treatments cannot provide a cure, and on the basis of the patient's informed consent. It's about making South Africa a global leader in cancer research and treatment. And it's about supporting the National Health Insurance Initiative. One was heartened, Chairperson, to hear the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Ms. Jessie Duarte, at the memorial service last week, that our government should indeed invest more in cancer research. As legislators, let us commit to fighting cancer and to enabling those who can to find a cure. Let us do this in honor of Mr. Michael Coetzee and millions others. Let us not allow his passing and that of many others to have been in vain. It is said, Chairperson, when one closes one's eyes, it should open the eyes of others. Let us commit to being those eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present today, Honourable Members of Parliament, members of the gallery and the media, I stand here today on behalf of the National Freedom Party before you to pay tribute to the late Secretary of Parliament, Michael Benjamin Coetzee. Some of us may remember the late Michael Coetzee as the Secretary to Parliament. Others may remember him for the different portfolios he had held whilst employed by Parliament. Honourable members, there is much more to the name of Michael Coetzee. an academic, a unionist who represented South Africa at different levels of engagement with different representatives from different countries. Honorable members and honorable chairperson, we are seated here today as a result of sacrifices made by many South Africans to liberate us from the inhuman prejudice of the past. Honorable chairperson, one such South African was none other than the late Michael Benjamin Coetzee. His commitment to the struggle for a free South Africa where all South Africans can live side by side in one united South Africa and be treated with dignity and respect is evident in his refusal to testify against our late struggle icon, Oliver Tambo. His detention was a testimony to his fight for a free South Africa. Although he was detained and subpoenaed to appear in court in 1983, he refused to testify, as a result of which he was identified as a hostile witness. He committed himself until the final days of his life. Such was the character of our late Michael Benjamin Coetzee. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, our leader, the Deputy Minister of Science and Technology, VZ Magwaza Msibi, the NEC of the National Freedom Party, we extend our deepest condolences to the family of the late Secretary Michael Benjamin Coetzee. May Almighty God grant you the strength and courage to overcome this great loss. To our late Secretary Michael Coetzee, rest in peace, our comrade, colleague, our struggle icon and hero. May you be blessed with the highest abode in heaven. I thank you all.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Fultane.
Honourable Deputy Speaker and honourable members, as well as ministers and deputy ministers here present, this is a message from the United Democratic Movement. It is indeed an honor for us as that party to be accorded this opportunity of paying tribute to a stalwart as great and grand as Michael was, the former Secretary of Parliament. When death strikes, families freeze. This Parliament was no different to his personal family because we're part of that family of his. We highly appreciate the opportunity, particularly regarding the fact that we are here talking about a man of such stature by his deeds. Shakespeare writes thus about such circumstances in life. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, I'll quote another South African leader, may not be popular nowadays, said their consequences are too ghastly to contemplate. Parliament took that tide, which was in the form of Michael, and that is why we are here today. Wise parliamentarians of the 2000s identified that tide in Mr. Coetzee, and they took it in its flood. Now, as South Africans, we are benefiting, and so is the world, from his great mind. Michael was that axis. He was that backbone. He was indeed that light. During his time, I'm told, trains ran on time. On his epitaph, if we're to be given an opportunity as parliamentarians, would steal a line or two from Alan Gray, would scribble and say, full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of Ocean Bay. That's what should go on his epitaph. The period 2002 to 2012 was particularly painful, whilst at the same time, a period of growth on the part of this parliament that we are. Painful in the sense that that's when he started to go sick, and slowly his membranes, could not take it anymore. This brings us to the vital point that a normal being is composed of 4 elements. 3 of those are the body, the brain, and the spirit. While his body succumbed slowly, though, his brain kept on generating great ideas, and now his spirit will linger on for years to come. What a unique birth when he was born. What a priceless contribution with his during his life. What a life he led. What a parliament he helped to develop. Alas, what a loss to the nation. To the family, we say, tough times never last. Tough people do. Be tough. And that comes from Robert Schuller. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable C.P. Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. We've heard from colleagues from different parties today about the life of Mr. Coetzee. Now, ordinarily or normally, we have motions of condolences for members of Parliament, and we remember some of our colleagues. But today it's different because it's one of our senior officials. It's the Secretary to Parliament. I don't think that has happened since we came here in 1994. And all the colleagues basically said, and they paid tribute to the life of Mr. Coetzee. But in the end, regardless of his struggles and where he came from, he acted as the Secretary to Parliament. And he fulfilled that role as Secretary of Parliament in such a dignified way, in which he treated all members equally, obviously, and he did his job in such a sterling way that everybody was quite happy and excited to have Mr. Coetzee, who became Secretary under very difficult circumstances a couple of years ago, the Secretary of Parliament. Ek wil van die Vryheidsfront Plus se kant af aan die mense wat eintlik vandag vir my saak maak, 'n paar woorde rig. En dit is die familie van meneer Coetzee. As ons vandag klaar hier gepraat het, dan gaan ons aan met ons werksaamhede en ons gaan aan met ons program. Maar dit is sy familie en sy nagelates wat huis toe gaan en meneer Coetzee is nog steeds nie daar nie. Ek wil aan hulle sê dat ons dink aan hulle in 'n moeilike tyd. Dit is nie maklik nie. Daar gaan moeilike dae wees, maar u kan gerus huis toe gaan en weet dat u geliefde het sy deel gedoen. Hy het sy werk verrig met waardigheid en met eer. Hy het opgetree met respek in hierdie parlement en almal eer hom vir daardie gedagtenis. Baie sterkte vir u in die moeilike tye wat voor mag lê, maar weet dat ons ook van die parlement se kant af as lede sal dink aan u en ook sal hulde bring nog steeds aan die nagedagtenis van meneer Coetzee. Baie dankie.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Lakota.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Comrade Mike Coetzee left this world as he lived his life. He left quietly, and he had served quietly. He never sought the limelight, but he was always there where work had to be done to advance the cause for democratizing South Africa. I recall him well from the launch of the United Democratic Front back in August 1983, and then our campaigning work to build the United Democratic Front in the Eastern Cape. We were recruiting communities, civics, business formation, church formations. He was very helpful, guiding us in areas that we didn't know, ensuring that he identifies people that would be critical in making this task successful. Michael was an accomplished public servant in that sense, even at that time, because to identify people in society, however different in the roles they play, who nevertheless can be brought together to form a current that will change things for the better, is not an easy thing to achieve. Yet he had this capacity. He was one of the leading activists, very young, generally self-effacing, but his influence was always telling. Public servants are those people. They don't want to be known for their political views or how brilliant they can be in this, that, or the other. They want to take all different people and take them in a direction that shapes the society. That was Comrade Michael. I know that as we go to the elections, we never think about these kind of people who don't want to be known for who they support, where their views are, but who are concerned that when the people shall have elected who must lead the country, they will bring their skills, their know-how, their dedication, hard work,
to ensure that those policies for which the people have voted are implemented, and therefore that the country and the people succeed. That's what makes a public servant. And I think as we talk today here, we must reflect quietly on how much we owe to the men and women who do this. We don't even know what exactly their views are at and so on, but they ensure that when we get here, each one of us get water if you need water. Each one of us have got a pen if you need it, a paper, and so on. Those are the critical people who sustain governments. Administrations, or the political leaderships come and they pass. Administrations remain in place. They are an essential element that stays from term to term, serving the people selflessly. And today I think we remember one of the best amongst us. I hope that our Department of Public Service and Administration can continue to cultivate, or at least build and cultivate, this culture so that we produce an outstanding generation of public servants that will sustain our democracy. Because even when it comes to political advice on the things that needs to be done to sustain the Constitution and therefore the democracy, they are the vital elements. He died young, and I say, our forebears, our elders say, "Sijana se setle ha se jele," because people put it there, they admire it. And before you can use it, you know, it may fall and break, and then we lose it. But what it really means is extremely useful, productive people who understand their mission. They tend to die far too early because our democracy is still growing. I hope we can find a substitute of his caliber. May God rest his soul in peace.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Meshu.
House Chairperson, honorable members, on behalf of the African Christian Democratic Party, I wish to convey our deepest condolences to the family and friends of the late Michael Coetzee, especially his beloved wife, Bridget, his son, Matthew, and his mother. In support of today's order on the order paper, I also want to pay my respects and honor to an extraordinary man, a man who has earned the admiration and respect of members from all political parties, parliamentary staff, his colleagues, and all who knew him. Our former and late Secretary to Parliament, Michael Coetzee, has undoubtedly left behind him a memorable and an enviable legacy. A motion that was moved by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party regarding the appointment of Mr. Coetzee to serve as Secretary to Parliament in October 2012 is testament to this legacy. His appointment was unanimously approved by the National Assembly and the NCOP after his exemplary leadership as Deputy Speaker for 12 years. It was easy for members to reach this unanimous decision because members of both houses had come to know his work ethic, passion, competence, diligence, and commitment to the efficient running of the institution of Parliament. Michael Coetzee accepted the appointment to serve as Secretary to Parliament even though he was already ill, because he wanted to finish the good work he had started in the transition process from the 4th to the 5th Parliament. Even though concerns about his health were raised by his family, who would have preferred him to retire and spend more time at home recuperating, he continued to work regardless. His commitment, passion, and diligence were unwavering. He successfully led his team to put in place the necessary administrative mechanisms and instruments for the functioning of the new term of Parliament. The ACDP will always remember Michael Coetzee for his humility, friendliness, approachability, discipline, and professionalism. To his wife, his son, and all family members, We want to thank you for giving Michael Coetzee to Parliament and also for giving him the space he needed to contribute towards building and entrenching democratic values in our Parliament. May the Lord bless you all, comfort you, heal your broken hearts in this time of tremendous loss. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Chichonga.
Chair, the Honourable Chair, the Honourable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, the Honourable Members of the House, and ladies and gentlemen. I am not sure whether you know that there are people who do not die. While death is a common denominator, there are two kinds of people. The first one, they get born, they age, they grow up, and they create problems. No one remember them. And the others, like Michael Coetzee, by the way, is my namesake, is not one of the above. He was born, he ate, he grew up, and served humanity by providing solutions. He had correct self-knowledge to serve humanity. He was a real servant. I engaged with him for only 2 days, but I learned a lot from him. We had an appointment to meet with him the following day, but he was no more. But as I said, he is still alive. He had love. It is said that service is love made visible. And indeed, he manifested that. Ishangani hiri mintiro ya vulavula. Mintiro ya Michael Coetzee ya vulavula and will continue vulavula. Someone says, whoever knows the all and possesses the all, but fails to serve humanity, lacks everything. Michael Coetzee was not one of them. Our deepest condolences, Mr. Coetzee. Your remains rest in peace. We know that you live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Gordy.
Thank you, Chairperson, comrades and honourable members. I rise on behalf of the APC and indeed on my own behalf to express our condolences to Mr. Coetzee's family, relatives, colleagues and comrades. Your pain is our collective pain, for in the African tradition, we share the joy, we share the pain. Mr. Coetzee was an honorable man. He was honorable not as a meaningless or arbitrary title, but through concrete practice and by force of example. In the first instance, as a freedom fighter, where he distinguished himself as a brave, dedicated, and committed activist. It was in the dangerous yet fulfilling course of the struggle that his character was firmed up. It was in the crucible of struggle that his consciousness was broadened, thus preparing him for the national responsibilities he was to assume later. as we celebrate freedom, it is the memory of activists like Mr. Coetzee that we should never forget. Mr. Coetzee no doubt served Parliament well, firstly as Deputy Secretary and later as Secretary to Parliament. His tenure at the helm of Parliament's administration had no noticeable controversies or upheavals. The APC hopes, therefore, that those he has left behind will continue to run this important institution of our country in a way that gives honor to his memory. We must all serve with humility, dignity, and integrity as Mr. Coetzee did. Mr. Coetzee was indeed a true leader. And it was people like him in mind that Sobukwe, I quote, described true leadership. True leadership demands the complete subjugation of self, uprightness of character, integrity, courage and fearlessness, and above all, a consuming love for one's people. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. That concludes the speakers list. The presiding officers associate themselves with the sentiments expressed by the members of this House on this matter. The Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Election of members of Pan-African Parliament.
I wish to remind honourable members that of the 5 representatives to the Pan-African Parliament, 3 are nominated from the majority party and 2 from the opposition parties. The following nominations were received for election to the Pan-African Parliament. Dr. Z.P. Jordan from the ANC, Ms. T.C. Mamela from the ANC, Dr. H. Mateme from the ANC, Ms. S.V. Kalyan from the DA, and Mr. N.F. Shivambu from the EFF. Are there any further nominations? There being no further nominations, the following members have therefore been duly elected as members of the Pan-African Parliament. Dr. Z.P. Jordan, Ms. T.C. Mamela, Dr. H. Mateme, Ms. S.V. Kalyan, and Mr. N.F. Shivambu. The Secretary will read the third order.
Designation of representatives of Parliament in Southern African Development Community Parliamentary Forum.
I now recognize the Honourable, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Honourable Chairperson, I move that the House agree.
Honourable Chief Whip, can you just read those names to us, please?
I move that the House agrees to Ms. Balagambete, ANC, Mr. MSA Masango, ANC, Ms. E.M. Coleman, ANC, Mr. S. Mkhalapa, DA, and Mr. A.M. Sheikh Imam, NFP.
Are there any objections to the motion as read by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the fourth order.
Designation of members to Judicial Service Commission.
Honourable members, the election of the members of the Judicial Service Commission is done in terms of Section 178, subsection 1, paragraph H of the Constitution. 6 of the members of the Judicial Service Commission are designated from among the members of the National Assembly. Section 178, Section 1, subsection H further determines that 3 of those designated must be members of the opposition parties represented in the Assembly. I will now recognize the Chief Whip of the Majority Party to move a motion on the designation of members of the Assembly to the Judicial Services Commission. The Honourable, the Chief Whip.
Honourable House Chairperson, I move that the House designate the following members of to the Judicial Services Commission: Dr. M.S. Mutsecha, ANC, Ms. A.T. Didiza, ANC, Mr. D.P. Magadzi, ANC, Mr. H.C. Schmidt, DA, Mr. J.S. Malema, EFF, and Mr. N. Singh, IFP.
Are there any objections to the motion? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the fifth order.
Designation of members to Magistrates Commission.
I will now once again recognize the Chief Whip of the Majority Party to move a motion on the designation of members of the Assembly to the Magistrates Commission. The Honourable the Chief Whip.
Honourable House Chair, I move that Mr. M.D. Kekana, ANC, Ms. C.C. September, ANC, Mr. W. Horn, DA, Mr. M.M. Shishonga, Akhang, SA, be designated as members to the Magistrates Commission for representing this House.
Are there any objections to the motion? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the sixth order.
Debate on Youth Day, 20 years of democracy, together advancing youth development and empowerment.
Our first speaker is the Honourable Tseke.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Firstly, let me convey my sincere regards to you all in memory of the class of 1976. Honorable Chair, I am immensely honored to participate in this debate in memory of the fallen martyrs of the class of 1976. Their resilience and superb conviction to die for the principle they so religiously believed in serves as a lifetime motivation that calls on us to continue to realize the vision of a fully free and a democratic society. We will not fail in our cause to do so. This task becomes an easy one to execute because we as the African National Congress are the toughest and evergreen branches of the tree rooted in the true African soil, a tree that continues to be nurtured and nourished by the blood of the likes of Solomon Mahlangu, Hector Peterson, Hastings Ndlovu, Lili Miti, and an endless list of true soldiers in the combat line. They pass on with their boots poised to treat the then promising path freedom. Honorable Chairperson, in my reflection throughout this debate, I challenge you, honorable members, through the Honorable Speaker, to bow our heads in honor of the spirits and shout from the rooftops saying, your drumming voices amidst the struggle still echo the fresh call to continue to consolidate our acts together as a nation and to preserve the glue that holds us together across racial lines. Free from prejudice and all forms of discrimination, we dare not fail in this regard. Honorable Chair, House Chairperson, our resolute decision to commemorate tragic event death of 16 June 1976 was not in vain. It was informed by, among others, the historic importance as a reminder of the painful passage the African people have traveled to attain freedom. The decision also has had multi-pronged benefits to the South African society and the youth in particular. Honorable members, the purpose of this afternoon discussion is located in the historic impact of the commemoration of June 16, year in and year out. Honorable members, a litany of racial laws promulgated by the apartheid regime triggered a lot of discomfort to the African people in the 70s. According to the Bantu education, then, through the education system which was designed to train and fit Africans for their role in the newly evolving African society. In 1953, Bantu Education Act of 1953 was promulgated as a pillar of apartheid project to separate black South Africans from the main well-resourced education system. Amongst other things, this law was one of the many measures by the apartheid regime to make the South African blacks to receive inferior education that would merely prepare them for manual jobs. In 1974, for example, the racist government gave instruction that Africans alongside with English should be the medium of instructions in school. As a reaction to this, black South African students began mobilizing themselves to fight this unjust practice by the then government. On June 1976, between 3,000 and 10,000 students were successfully mobilized by the South African Students' Movement Action and a peaceful march in protest against the use of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. The trigger-happy police then started shooting randomly at the students, among these in the front line, and the first casualties were the late Hector Peterson, Lily Miti, and Hastings Ndlovu. From that moment, the streets of Soweto became the battlefield characterized by the skirmishes between the police and the students. From Soweto, these tragic events mushroomed into the neighboring townships like Tembisa, like Kagiso, and in other parts of the country. Honorable members, workers were persuaded to stage a strike by mounting pickets at the railway station and bus terminus. Summarily, South Africa became like a bloodbath which was triggered and provoked by the racist and oppressive regime. Honorable Chair, the young and innocent learners who are friends across racial lines must be encouraged to remember that there was a time in this country where they could not be friends because they could not attend the same school. They could not stay in the same areas. They could not play in the same facilities. They must know that this uncomfortable part of their heritage, so that never again shall it be that they will ever subjugated to others merely on account of their skin color. They must know that there was a time in South Africa where they were compelled to learn in a foreign language. They must know that there was once a gallant generation of fighters whose image and embodiment is the late Hector Peterson and his many other living contemporaries, that these forebears of the youth today resisted with everything at their disposal, including their lives, to the imposition of Afrikaans as a language of learning and teaching. It is necessary that the youth of today should understand the historical context for some of the many problems which are caused by apartheid. They must know all this truth so that they can be vigilant to the misguided rhetoric of present-day peacetime warriors who distort history and project the ANC government as the cause of problems when it is engaged in cleansing the longest trails of colonialist baggage in Africa. Honorable members, the youth must know that there was a time in South Africa where young black students could not further their education, a time when the doors of learning were closed to them because they could not afford university education. We must tell the youth that it is the ANC whose policies address these injustices of lack of access to education when it's declared that your circumstances of birth will not determine your destiny. This truth must be told. Parents also must take responsibility to lead their children to an appreciation of their identity and essence. The profoundly rich African heritage of bedtime stories and fireplace anecdotes, fables, and idioms must be rekindled even as we embrace modern-day PlayStations and social media platforms as forms of entertainment and engagement. Central to the act of learning is a people's language. Learning is a people's language. In this regard, we have a long way to go to teach the youth to love and appreciate their languages. After all, June 16 was about asserting one's identity and refusing to be subjugated through language. Honorable members, at this date and time, we cannot whinge and whine and thus continue to deepen the cracks of racist tendencies as perpetuated by the previous regime. We can only learn the positive lessons from the Soweto uprisings as outlined briefly. Hopefully, you would agree with the African National Congress that events such as this are a good reminder of the realities that have made South Africa what it is today. Let the memory of the struggle heroes and heroines continue to inspire our youth to struggle for a South Africa where poverty, unemployment, and equality will not be their legacy and heritage in years to come. On one level, the commemoration of this day should be a glue that holds us together as a nation as we curse the bitter and painful past and say in unison, our country will never, ever be the same again. Surely, Honorable Speaker, commemoration of this day must be converted into a powerful instrument for nation-building reconciliation and a convenient way of fostering social cohesion. It is true that all South Africans across all racial lines are the product of a true African We must therefore learn to unite more than any other time before, because we managed to survive against all odds. By way of illustration, honorable members, we'll recall that the cynics and the soothsayers made a countless pronouncement that South Africa would plunge into a civil war prior to the first democratic elections. What happened? Who can forget the cynical statements about the lack of readiness and security prior to our hosting of the World Cup? Instead, we have a very successful World Cup in 2010. Re bana bampa e le nosi ga re ka ke re kgaoganya ke sepe. Motswana o buile a re sedikwa ke ntšwapedi ga se thata. Ebile tau e senang seboka e siwa ke none e tlhotsa. No one can dispute that the exemplary spirit and tone set by the class of 1976 that has left a lasting inspiration for the young people of South Africa to actively take keen interest in matters affecting them, especially in education. Commemorating this day is very important. It's a very important anchor in the historical account of our past, which will always be part of us, but will never discourage us to look forward for a better future. As a way also of illustration, honorable members, we'll recall that there are strong and progressive students' representative councils in institutions of higher learning. We are also having a progressive youth alliance, which is also very active, which is formed by young people from different structures and who are able to deal with issues affecting young people in education, unemployment, and other challenges in our country. Commemoration of June 16 also helped in weathering the social threat by organizing and taking part in sporting and cultural activities that take place to foster racial unity, helps mature our democracy, and most importantly, deepen the efforts for reconciliation. Through constructive debates and cultural events scheduled for the commemoration of 16 June, the society and the youth in particular become exposed to practices of a cultural nature in different races. This, therefore, Honorable Chair, makes solid the strides made by the ANC-led government of building a non-racial, non-sexist, and a democratic South Africa. A series of events to celebrate the June 16 uprisings organized throughout the country therefore become convenient catalysts to encourage tolerance and mutual existence and diverse cultures being showcased. This stark reminder of the role played by the youth inspires us to join hands and attend all activities to pay homage to the fallen heroes and heroines by actively participating in sports. One more important dimension of the commemoration of June 16 annually lies in the centrality of its importance and how it could contribute to a change phase of our education system. To commemorate this event, a full and tragic day is to acknowledge the historical value it bears to the current society. In other words, the true history of South African politics is incomplete without a comprehensive narrative on the events of 16 June 1976. It is a breaking point that remains a treasure in our education and thus needs to be preserved. We can neither achieve nor hide the stark reality of the enormous importance that Soweto uprisings had on the South African landscape. It has to be retold both as an oral history as well as a written one. We have a backing that guarantees our rights to commemorate important dates in our history. We are therefore encouraged to use this opportunity to learn a lot from the determination of the class of 1976 as we commemorate this day. Honorable Speaker, I affirm that the ANC-led government decision to set aside time to reflect on the day in this debate as an annual event is a step in the right direction, as it rekindles the rich treasure of the early days in the conception of our current democracy. It is a good story to tell and a good story to keep and transfer to all generations. A dire need to conduct unconscious political education and correction of distorted facts is necessary. It is in the commemoration of such events that distorted historical facts are corrected in an open public events organized by government. Such a progressive and beneficial opportunity must not be missed, and that is why I, on behalf of the ANC-led government, a party voted by 62% of the South Africans, urge all members and all sectors of the society to attend to the commemoration of such events. It's an opportunity never to be missed. Finally, a few days ago, we all learned that there are some who proclaim to hail from Soweto. Well, I guess that by now they must have had a very informed and reliable political baptism. They would therefore not grace this podium and whinge about the challenges that we are all aware of. We know those challenges facing the youth as well as the society. I therefore expect them to be part of the constructive debate as stated by the President of this country in the State of Nation address by opening up to the realities around the need to jointly commemorate this eventful day to remind ourselves of the fact that we can, as mankind, rise above oppressive and limiting environment and achieve the good for our common goal. Members of the esteemed House, the days of whinging and winning are gone. Whining are gone. We need to join hands and build this nation together and continue avail the social glue that helps in building the nation. Let us be part of this commemoration as one nation with common history and destiny. We do this to leave a legacy not to be compared with any. As the ANC will expose the flame to those who still prefer the darkest passages. I refer to those in the left.
Honourable Member, your time has
And
expired.
the ANC leads. The government is ready to take the youth forward. I thank you.
Order, honourable members. The next speaker is the Honourable Kasim, and he will be delivering his maiden speech.
Honourable Chairperson, this debate is in honour and remembrance of the youth of 1976, who rose up against a system which saw fit to use education as a means of oppression. Honourable members, the surest way to empower our youth is through quality, accessible education. This includes access to higher education and training, the absence of which is oppressive to the majority of our young people even today. This was most sadly illustrated in January of this year, when half of the qualifying young people had their dreams and hopes and aspirations shattered by the NSFAS shortfall debacle. Honourable members, their calls and cries rang hollow in that time, as hollow and empty as the bench of the Honourable Minister Blade Nzimande, who is not present with us in this important debate. Honourable members, I stand here today having dedicated my life to the struggle to carry the hopes and dreams of our young members to the very benches of this Parliament. I stand here today not to fight like some for medical aid schemes, but to fight for the future of the people of our country and for the future of our country as a whole. I stand here to fight for Lebogang, a young woman who 3 months into the semester at the University of Venda received an SMS from NSFAS telling her that although she qualifies for higher education, her government will not provide for her. She mandated me to ask the Honourable Nzimande, what should she do? Should she continue attending classes with nowhere to live, no food to eat, and no money to register? Or should she go and travel back to Zanin without any taxi fare to her family and village, which was already celebrated, had admission into university? I find it sad, honourable members, and I find it ironic that the name Lebogang, translated in the Sotho language, means be grateful. Honourable Chairperson, I will address the Honourable Nzimande in his conspicuous absence. Honourable Nzimande, Lebogang, like hundreds and thousands of young South Africans who have failed in this fashion and other fashions, have very little to be grateful about and to be grateful for. You, Honourable Minister, are directly responsible. You knew that the NSFAS budget was insufficient to allow our people to pursue their futures and build our country. You were warned countless times, but chose rather to ignore these warnings and to focus on your political efforts for yourself and the Honourable President Jacob Zuma. What is your plan, Honourable Minister? Next year, the 50% of NSFAS applicants that were turned away at the beginning of this year will have to compete with a new batch of matriculants to pursue their futures in the absence of meaningful free higher education for poor students. This is why urgent action is needed. All you have done, Honourable Minister, is to burn through years with working groups upon committees, whilst an entire generation becomes confined to the fringes of our society. Honourable Chairperson, young South Africans cannot afford to wait for government to catch up to their needs. In the absence of any substantive plan, honourable members, let me assist you with one. The DA has already developed a plan which will make free higher education for poor qualifying matrics a reality. This starts by ensuring that 16 billion rand is urgently made available to ensure that no student is prevented from furthering their studies just because they cannot afford to do so. This, by the way, is a constitutional imperative that this government has failed to practice. The entire cost of this funding must be converted into a bursary on the completion of a student's studies so that they are not burdened with a debt plus interest just because they come from a poor background.
Point of order.
Yes, Honourable Member, what is your point of order?
Where's my time, Chair, please?
Chairperson, I wanted to check whether it's parliamentary for members when they are presenting their maiden speech to be aggressive as they are.
Order. Order, Honourable Members. Order. Honourable Members, I indicated when the Honourable Member took to the podium it is maiden speech. However, it's his choice. If he wants to be aggressive and he wants to be interjected, then that is part of the debate. And that is why there's been a number of interjections coming from the benches. Honourable Member, you have 30 seconds left to complete your speech.
Furthermore, the state must stand surety for loans for needy students who cannot qualify for NSFAS. I invite you, honourable members, to learn from the DA's alternative budget, which shows how this can be workable. 21.4 billion rand can be saved by streamlining government departments as well as their projects. 30 billion rand can be saved by simply cutting corruption. Educating its citizens is the best investment a country can make, honourable members. The returns in revenue and economic growth are over 1 and 11-fold respectively. There is no good reason why free education for poor qualifying students is delayed and continues to be delayed. There are only bad reasons. There is only
Honourable
a neglectful government. Thank you.
Quiet. Order, Honourable Members. The next speaker is the Honourable Ndlozi, who is also delivering a maiden speech.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, fellow Honourable Members. Salutations to the CIC and the people of South Africa. I'd like to also salute the generation of 1976, who were the first ancestors of fighters that we went to salute when we formed the Economic Freedom Fighters, before going to Marikana to salute the current fallen heroes who are fighting for economic emancipation in their lives. We have been asked today to come and debate youth development. Now, let me first begin by describing and defining what the youth is. The youth is a generation of people who are in transition between childhood dependency and adulthood independency. This transition is largely about economics, where we enable a generation to succeed in becoming truly economically self-sufficient. In South Africa, though, this has not been the case for many decades, particularly for black people. In particular, we know that black people have been working under precarious conditions for many, many years. Under apartheid, the apartheid state ensured through the migrant labor system firstly, but also through many, many laws that black people do not work under decent labor conditions. They worked without pension funds, without medical aid schemes, without housing allowance, without prospects for education or to educate their children. This is not an accident of a dysfunction of economic system. It was actually designed. Apartheid needed to make sure that at all times, there are masses of black people that are available as cheap and easily disposable labor. That is, it trapped for the longest possible period majority of black people as permanent juniors. And therefore, we call this process the process of permanent juniorization. You trap black people as people who must constantly be unable to be economically self-sufficient, to depend on grants, to always live at the feed, begging for the crumbs that fall from the master's table. The past 20 years, what has the democratic state done to crush this legacy of shameful black living, of blacks who cannot be proud of their lives? One, the democratic government has kept that process of permanent juniorization consistently uninterrupted. They've become part of those people who make sure that at all times capital finds available en masse black people who are cheap and easily disposable. How have they done this? Through the consistent and unapologetic, uninterrupted implementation of neoliberal policies. What are these policies? Number one, flexible labor. To make sure that the many people in this country who work in Edgar's, who work in ShopRite, remain under labor brokers. What does that guarantee? Cheap and easily disposable black labor. Two, they've ensured that, and they celebrate, they call for it, from GET to the NDP, low wages. They've made it a point that the wages are low so that capital is able to celebrate coming to invest in South Africa because it knows it doesn't have to be responsible for praying for our people. They've kept them there low because the purpose of the democratic government is not different to the purpose of the apartheid government. That is to make sure that black people are available as much as possible in their numbers as cheap and easily disposable labor. Lastly, by the way, majority of the workforce earns 3,300 or less. Majority of the workforce. And under the African National Government as well, African National Congress government, unemployment rate has risen from 15% in 1994, and depending on which statistics you read, to 37% or 35%, and the majority of these remain the youth. And the majority of those youth are black young people. According to Stats SA Labor Market Survey this year, in 2014, this month, of those who get employed, young people are more likely to be employed on a contract of limited duration than on a permanent contract. The share of young people employed on permanent contract also declined over the period 2008 to 2012, from 53.6% to 21.6%. And members of the ruling party will come here to celebrate the EPWP, which is a program of constantly availing at a very lowest price masses of black people, and they make it a priority of the black youth who work menial labor, the jobs that apartheid always wanted them to work, with a low paid and on a temporal contract, because they must always be available on a cheap and they must be easily dismissible. Capitalism in South Africa never wants to pay wages. And the terrified African National Government, African National Congress government, has now even made an offer to pay them on their behalf, the wages of our people. They've offered to take taxpayers' money to pay them through what they call the youth wage subsidy. Why does the African National Congress government not force companies to pay our people decent wages, employ them directly on a decent contract where they pay them, they make sure that they've got money to take their children to school, pay them decent wages to make sure that at all times they're able to take themselves to quality health care? They don't do that because they are terrified.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is the Honourable Schlengwa.
Honourable House Chairperson, unfortunately, the youth of South Africa 2014 don't have a cool story to tell. 20 years into our freedom and democracy, education is just as bad as it was in 1976. They are receiving poor, Honourable Minister Motshekga, quality education under your watch. 30% pass rate, and you expect them to become something in life. Yet, the people who struggle for this country come to this very podium and tell us that we've got a good story to tell. What good story to tell when we've got over 4 million young South Africans unemployed? They come here and tell us we must wage a new struggle. What struggle 20 years into our freedom and democracy? No sane thinking person must accept that young people must struggle in a free and democratic South Africa and go through what the youth of 1976 had to go through under an oppressive regime. Why is this government adopting those tendencies and oppressing the young people of this country, forcing them into permanent unemployment? Yet they come to this podium and say, we've got a good story to tell. When we look at the issue of the HIV and AIDS and the denialism that this country went through under the ANC, the ramifications of that have come back to haunt us. Child-headed households, students without parents in tertiary institutions who have to go through long queues, red tape and bureaucracy just to get access to NSFAS funding. So what the Honorable Ndosi was saying here, you have taken young people and you have put them into a culture of dependency because it works in favor of the ANC to have a voter fodder, because if they are dependent on you, they will vote for you. What a shame. And then you come here and you say, you've got a good story to tell. You have done the youth of South Africa a major injustice by removing, out of your social conscience, anything that says their lives are going to be improved. So as I was preparing for this debate, I said, why should I write a speech? Because young South Africans are speaking for themselves. They are saying to the government, shape up or ship out, because you are failing them. You failed them in 1994, you are failing them today. The government, you don't even have a youth ministry, a youth department.
Can the member take a question?
This very parliament does not even have...
Order, honourable members. Honourable member, are you prepared to take a question?
No, I'm not, Honourable Chair.
Not prepared to take a question.
Now, when you... This very
Order, honourable
parliament
members.
does not even have a parliament to represent the interests of young people. So how do you expect the majority of young South Africans, who are the majority of this country, to take anything we do here seriously when even this institution does not take them seriously? So we don't hear this refrain and this rhetoric because it doesn't make sense. It is old age. There's no good story to tell. You have failed young South Africans. You should be ashamed of yourselves. So the message is very clear. Shape up, ship out, or ship out. If you don't shape out, we'll ship you out.
Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. The next speaker is the Honourable Mgwabe, and is also delivering a maiden speech.
The Speaker of the day, honourable members of the House, ministers, deputy ministers, it is the submission of the National Freedom Party that, firstly, the issue of youth affairs should not be the issue of the month of June only. The youth represent a large number of the population of this country. We should be talking about these issues every day, not only when we commemorate the heroes of June 16. The youth of South Africa is facing serious challenges of skills shortage, high rate of unemployment, HIV, AIDS, and drug abuse. But among these challenges, unemployment becomes the serious one. Because even those who are employed are still the victims of labor brokers that we say as an NFP should be scrapped by the government as a matter of urgency. Our submission as an NFP is that skills development is one of the important strategies to tackle the problem of the scarcity of labor. We therefore urge the Department of Higher Education to put more funding for FET colleges and build more new FET colleges, especially in townships and rural areas. We all know that the country is still in need of a number of artisans. Therefore, FET colleges should become the priority for the current government. Honourable Speaker, we want also to submit that this House should review the role of the NYDA, its functions and duties and goals and objectives. This is the structure that was formed to help the youth of this country, but it's unknown to the youth of rural areas and in townships. is not visible and vocal in youth affairs. We only learn to know about this structure when there's some corruption activities going on. We therefore believe that we need to revisit the necessity of this structure that continues to waste the money for the youth of this country. Again, we wish to submit it to the Department of Basic Education, Honorable Minister of Basic Education, that one of the things that we believe can tackle the issue of unemployment as well is to review the curriculum of basic education and include important subjects like driver's lessons, subject in matric level, as well as accredited computer certificate on matric level. We believe that should a young person leave the school with a valid driver's license, a recognized computer certificate accredited by Umalusi, together with the matric certificate, that can also help those who could not afford the higher education to get employment on that particular level.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
But lastly, Comrade Chair...
Honourable Member, your time has expired. The next speaker is the Honourable Steenkamp, who is also delivering a maiden speech.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. They would just see us walking out of class and would try to stop us. And we would tell them, wait, this is our day. Teboho Mohape, one of the pupils of the class of 1976, spoke these words. We are celebrating Youth Month because of brave young men and women like Teboho, one of the brave young people in Soweto who stood up against an oppressive regime and demanded a better future. That demanded a more beautiful future. We must honor their legacy. And today, in present time, we must ask ourselves if we are indeed honoring that legacy. They fought and died so that our generation could make a Bokamoso Barona, a better future for all. The problem is that after 20 years of democracy, we have not arrived at that better future yet. Bokamoso Bobontle, where I come from, it means a beautiful future. And that is exactly what the DA is fighting for. Yet we look around and we see staggering youth unemployment, struggling basic education plagued by students not having textbooks, students not having teachers in classes, and the lack of political will to implement the desperately needed policies. The NYDA was created by government more than 4 years ago and was meant to usher in a new era in youth development. However, the agencies only ushered in a new era, or rather a generation, of corruption led by the ANC Youth League and the Young Communist League cadres like Andile Lungise and Yersten Pillay. The NYDA CEO unjustifiably earns 1.8 million rand per year, an almost presidential salary for what? A glorified party planner. The NYDA has failed South Africa and its youth. The agency's own report clearly illustrates that it has failed to meet 95.5% of its targets in the past, but never failed to award themselves with millions of rands in bonuses. I will quote Kurt Cobain. The duty of youth is to challenge corruption.
Chairperson, can I ask a question?
No.
Honourable Member, in future, if you want to alert my attention, you must first wait until I recognize you and before you interrupt the speaker. And once I've recognized you, then I will allow you, after hearing from the speaker, if he or she wants to take a question. Can we observe that for the future, please? Continue, Honourable Member.
So Kurt Cobain says the duty of youth is to challenge corruption. Therefore, I, Joni Bontle Steenkamp, I'm standing here in front of you today, a 27-year-old member of the youth of South Africa, and I am telling you, the NYDA is squandering money while South Africa's youth is desperately in need of help. and living in poverty. Ons soek werk vir ons jong mense. Ons soek regte ontwikkeling en ons eis meer beurse. We want more skills development. We want better schools. We want better lives. We do not want the NYDA. I want to share with you a vision for a better future for young people. A future where we don't just talk and promise, but where we deliver and implement a more beautiful future set out in the National Development Plan and echoed by our Bokamoso Bobontle initiative. We call on President Zuma's administration to enact the NDP by funding and enabling high-quality education system by increasing the National Student Financial Aid Scheme to 16 billion rand. And we can easily afford this if governments stop wasting money on fancy cars, elaborate parties, and cut corruption. Ensure that every school delivers quality basic education by having the annual national assessment of grade 3s to 9 externally administered and marked. Also to increase the number of internships and training opportunities to the youth to 1 million per year by partnering with the business community of South Africa. President Zuma, die tyd het gekom om oor te gaan tot aksie. Die uitvoerende raad van die Nasionale Jeugontwikkelingsagentskap moet afgedank word. Die geld moet geïmplementeer word waar dit 'n werklike verskil kan maak vir die jeug, vir alle jeug van Suid-Afrika. Ons moet die geld spandeer op beurse, ondersteuning vir jong entrepreneurs, internskappe, vaardigheidsontwikkeling en die jeugloonsubsidie. Wait, this is our day. Stop talking about it and start making that beautiful future happen. Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honorable Tobias.
Mohlomphehi modulasetulo, makgotla a Palamente a hlomphehileng, ladies and gentlemen, dumelang. Modulasetulo, ke kopa o mphe monyetla hore ke tswele koteng hanyane ke hlalosetse bana ba heso batjha hore tse ding tsa dintho tse ba di buang mona ha diyo. E re ke qale ka Ntate Ndlozi. You quoted economics. In economics, there's different models. There's Keynesian models and different ones, and economists themselves doesn't agree on any model. The bad example that you make is to say that young people are in transit from being children to adults. Therefore, it doesn't amaze me if you stand here and behave like a kindergarten children. One of the experiences that you learn as a young person, as you demand education, honorable members, from the DA, is to understand the policies of government. And one of the most important things is to understand that the ANC-led government has actually invested the biggest slice of the fiscus on education. I don't know what you want. Secondly, I will pardon your ignorance on the NSFAS that Minister Bladin Nzimande once stood on this podium and requested members of parliament to bring anybody who's got a challenge with NAFSAS to him to address the matter immediately. You have not brought anybody so far. So I will understand those new members who don't read any documentation of government, not to understand what is the fiscus, how much we allocated, and the statistics on employment, and I'll give you some. Today, honorable members, I dedicate my speech on celebrating Youth Day to a former member of the August House and my former leader in the progressive movement, the African National Congress, that is Comrade Kgaugelo Lekgoro, whom I learned has passed on this week. A cadre of our movement who died having not betrayed his ideals for contravening contravenes, demagogy, and all machinations, even when at the time of passing away, he did not hold a position of power. He remained true to his convictions. He remained a disciplined cadre of the African National Congress. The African National Congress remains the glorious party of revolution. It is the generation of Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, that inspired the youth of 1976 to take the baton forward. When we speak of youth participation, we limit it to the 1976 generation. We forget, in actual fact, that it is the very same African National Congress that has moved from passive resistance to a radical approach. It is the very same policies of the African National Congress that spoke about economic freedom in our lifetime. It was also the generation of Peter Mugabe.
Order, honorable members.
You know, Floyd and Julius, I can engage you outside. I apologize.
Well, will you refer to the honorable members?
I apologize.
Honorable Tobias.
It is the generation of Peter Mugabe, Arapu Mulekane and Kgaugele Lekgoro that understood that for the National Democratic Revolution to arrive at its logical conclusion, it had the responsibility to develop youth. And the responsibility to bring the NDR to its logical conclusion cannot exchange hands. I repeat, the responsibility to bring the National Democratic Revolution to its logical conclusion cannot exchange hands. It's only the party of revolution that carries the mandate. The African National Congress, therefore, remains the relevant party in setting the national agenda. The ANC will continue to mobilize all progressive forces, especially the youth, and rally them behind the vision of building a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, united and prosperous society. The youth of today should take lessons of the youth of yesterday, who implemented the task of the National Liberation Movement with discipline, agility, and ability to learn from their predecessors. Therefore, Honorable Chairperson, it will be suicidal for any revolutionary to lack clarity of thought in understanding basics in any revolution. The African National Congress has ushered in a developmental state post-1994. By its definition, the developmental state is a progressive tool to implement the NDR, and thus has a positive impact in the lives of ordinary citizens. It therefore develops the capacity to achieve the strategic goals of bettering the lives of the people. It also changes the quality of life of the masses and has biasness towards the motive forces of our struggle. And through its progressive social programs, it mobilizes social forces and all stratas of society by transforming society, and it achieves this through a competent, patriotic public service with high levels of education and raised productivity levels. And this, Honorable Chair, is reflected by the high intake of youth in its employ. And this also translates in economic beneficiation. Therefore, the youth of this country remains an essential component of a progressive motive force that our government continues to mobilize through guidance and development. But above all this, the youth themselves must not sit in a corner and await government to intervene in their plight. The youth of Nelson Mandela's time took upon themselves to change their lives around through sacrifice and selflessness. The developmental state gave itself a role to transform society by playing an active role in the development of our people Government does not only set regulations, but has committed huge amounts of funds for training and financing huge infrastructure development projects, and incentives through microfinancing of small business. Therefore, higher participation of youth in the economy will yield good results. And we need the commitment of youth in saving the South African masses. Business should also commit itself in supporting government in economic development to accelerate movement towards a people-centered social system. It is through the role played by the youth that the South African government can relate to the market forces. Currently, the developmental state is building a professional and committed care. And I want to pause there to reflect to this saying that we buy investors. How on earth do you say a developmental state that has injected so much money in social development be equated to a market-orientated state? It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. A pure capital state will not provide social grants for the poor. A poor capital state will not provide free housing for the poor. A capitalist state will not provide free education until matric level. A poor capital state will not give you NSFAS and bursaries. That's the reality that we do not want to accept. Of course, we understand we play into the gallery. Of course, we understand that we one day aspire to be on this side of the house. Of course, it's not going to be possible for the coming 2 or 3 decades.
Order, honorable members.
So we will understand that as long as you don't bring fundamental theoretical change in terms of policy shifts from what the ANC stands for, there is nothing new you are bringing on the table. We are accelerating economic freedom. We are a more responsive government. Our economy is labor absorbing. We are deracializing the economy. We are pursuing 5% economic growth. We are pursuing that. We have invested in infrastructure development program. We are also stabilizing the mining sector. We just won the deal. Now, applaud us. It was through government intervention. It was Minister Ramatlhodi that today the strike has come to an end.
Honorable member, your time has expired. Thank you, honorable member. Order, honorable members. The next speaker is the Honorable Kwanka.
Thank you very much, House Chair. You know, comrades, we shouldn't waste time with semantics. No one disagrees with the fact that in terms of revenue allocation, education is a priority in South Africa. But where we disagree on is the fact that are we getting returns on investment? Now, as soon as we don't agree on that, we're only going to regurgitate manifestos without addressing the problem. The fact of the matter is, as money returns on investment and number of maths and science in Africa, and we can't celebrate that. That is a fact. House Chair and honorable members, June 16, 1976 signifies the contribution of the youth in the fight for the self-evident right to determine our own destiny. The youth of 1976 fought bravely to disentangle ourselves from the apartheid regime's oppressive entanglements. We owe this generation a big debt of gratitude for the freedoms we now enjoy. Fellow compatriots, in remembering the heroism of the youth of 1976, we should first consider the appropriateness of the fiery and dramatic start to the 5th Democratic Parliament last week, where pelting each other with a litany of perspectives seemed to take the place of meaningful discourse and the economic advancement of our people. Honorable members, if we allow mudslinging and name-calling to become a permanent interlude away from meaningful discourse, we run the risk of going down as a generation of leaders that derives a perverse pleasure from behaving in ways that constitute a perversion of the true meaning of democracy. The same democracy for which the generation of 1976 fought for. House Chair, we should therefore put all hands on deck to come up with proposals that ensure the building of a truly better life for all, especially the youth. We should focus on the youth because 20 years into our democracy, the youth face a kaleidoscope of new challenges such as poverty, unemployment, as well as alcohol and drug abuse. To advance youth development, the United Democratic Movement believes that not only are reducing the red tape that stifles youth entrepreneurship and introducing targeted incentives critical in job creation for youth, but youth development finance institutions should also be compelled to help young entrepreneurs to meet their conditions for finance agreements. This is the only way to close the big gap between their loan approval and loan disbursement rates for youth. On skills development, we believe that government should work with the private sector and forge a closer working relationship with the tertiary institutions to improve both the work readiness of graduates and the quality of internship programs. It is futile to place thousands of young people in internships around the country if all they do is to make photocopies and fax documents for the duration of the internships. As a nation, if we fail to prioritize youth development and empowerment, we'll continue to carry the heavy load that is filled with the detritus of an unhappy youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Alberts.
Voorzitter, die jeug in Suid-Afrika, insluitend in die continent van Afrika, is deel van 'n geskiedkundige demografiese dividend wat of 'n geweldige ekonomiese hupstoot vir Afrika kan gee, insluitend in Suid-Afrika, of 'n geweldige faktor kan wees in die destabilisering van state, insluitend in Suid-Afrika. Europa en die VSA, asook nou China tot 'n mate, kan die demografiese dividend effektief aanwend vir die skep van 'n enorme ekonomiese groei en ontwikkeling tot voordeel van al hulle burgers. South Africa is struggling in using its demographic dividend arising from the youth effectively. Instead of super economic growth, we are dealing with the following statistics. 50% of employable persons under 25 are unemployed. The under 25s constitute 30% of total unemployed. 60% of those that left school did so without matric. The average time spent looking for a job equals 806 days, and young people are competing in a pool of 6.5 million job seekers. This struggle means that South Africa can in a foreseeable future face significant unrest stemming from frustrated youth. The answers are obvious. We need economic growth that creates jobs fast and sustainably. However, the stated statistics have an underlying reality of cause and effect that can be found in government policies that after 20 years of democracy simply do not work. Die regering se beleid skiet ver tekort in die volgende areas. Eerstens, basiese onderwys is so swak dat diegene wat uit daardie stelsel kom, veral arm swart jong mense, beskou word as onaanstelbaar, behalwe vir ongeskoolde arbeid. Dit is 'n nasionale skande, en mense kan net wonder of die regering opsetlik die massas ongeskool wil hou ten einde hulle makliker te beheer. Die eerste stap in die regstel hiervan is die instel van moedertaalonderrig, meer klem op wiskunde en wetenskap en die daarstel van hoër slaagstandaarde. Secondly, affirmative action and BBBE have become instruments that for the most part empowers ANC cadres only. These instruments do not allow for growth but merely redistributes existing wealth. It merely replaces the previous extractive regime with another one based on race. Last time I checked, there is a difference between the mathematical functions of division and multiplication. Instead, the solution in unlocking wealth can start with government handing state-owned land to the poor, whether black or white. Die aanspreek van die beleidsprobleme sal die ekonomiese ontwikkeling moontlik maak deur middel van die jeug as demografiese dividend. Die vraag is egter of die regering die korrekte beleidsopsies gaan volg, die wat bewese is en groei verseker het in 'n land soos Suid-Korea, of die wat lei na hel op aarde soos in Noord-Korea. Die keuse is in u hande. Dankie, voorsitter.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Madisha.
Honourable Speaker, thank you. Every year around the 16th of June, the youth of South Africa are reminded of the heroic efforts of the young people of 1976 who stood their ground against the apartheid regime and against the efforts of the government to dehumanize them by forcing them to learn in a language that was not their own. The youth of today still have a battle against the government, but it is a different battle. The youth are fighting against unemployment, illiteracy, poor education, and HIV and AIDS. 20 years of democracy still find the youth of South Africa fighting for their place in the economy of the country. It finds a youth that is unable to create wealth, a youth that lives in debt. It finds a youth that is still fighting to get a decent education. The fight against the oppression of a foreign language is now replaced by the fight against the oppression of an indifferent education. 20 years of democracy find young women who are still dependent on the state for survival, who have very few choices and little control of their future, their lives, their careers, or even their own bodies. Violence against women and children is greater than it has ever been. 20 years into democracy has found an entire generation without hope. The young people are daily faced with poor nutrition, poor living standards, poor teaching, few opportunities, and little encouragement. This has created a poverty trap. In 20 years of democracy, we still have serious deficits in our education. An inadequate number of learners take up maths. Most school leavers lack competency in reading, comprehending, and writing. Technical education is also inadequate. Those who have maths, strong writing capabilities, and the right technical skills are ready to contribute to the economy. Unfortunately, skills demanded in the workplace are the very skills that continue to be in serious short supply. Today, as we debate this most important topic, we must accept that the quality of education our children get is satisfactory to those who will be seeking to employ them.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Dirks, who will deliver his maiden speech.
Honourable House Chair, honourable members, members of the public, good afternoon. On the 7th of May this year, the youth of this country went out in their hundreds of thousands to go and vote for the African National Congress to improve, to continue to deliver services to them. They renewed our mandate to continue to improve their lives in this country. This ANC democratic government has committed itself to transforming post-schooling system, including the inherited apartheid social and economic structure, in order to bring about a new social order. We, as the ANC, we have a working plan in place to move the youth of this country forward and to move the people in general of this country forward. We have therefore committed to build a comprehensive system that integrates universities, FETs, SETAs, and the National Skills Fund and public adult learning centers. The Freedom Charter, which is a blueprint for the democratic revolutionary forces, calls for the doors of learning, culture, and training to be open to all. Honourable Speaker, immediately after the 1994 democratic breakthrough, we were faced with the mammoth task of radically opening those doors as per the mandate that was given to us by the people. The ANC government had to do that knowing very well that education and training is a key and vital component of national unity, nation building, reconciliation, social cohesion, and more importantly, youth development. Education and training is a critical cornerstone of the National Democratic Revolution. As a result, the President in the State of the Nation, in his State of the Nation address, raised the issues of education, the government's program, the government plans for education, where he raised that grade 12 learners who gain entrance to university, moving from 172,000 in 2013 to 250,000 in 2019. He raised the issue of 12 new education and training colleges to be built. We have opened a new medical school campus in the University of Limpopo. And we have also built new universities in Mpumalanga province and in the Northern Cape. These are the issues that the President have raised in his State of the Nation address, tackling the issues of education. Then you find the honorable member from the IFP coming here to the front and asking us what good story you have to tell. The honorable member from the IFP forgets that since 1995 they were running the KwaZulu-Natal government in KwaZulu. He forgets that since 1994 till 2004 they ran KwaZulu-Natal into the ground, and in the process they reduced themselves to a regional party based in Nongoma. We as the ANC, we are delivering, we are offering the youth of this country quality education. Then you find the honorable leader of the EFF, the honorable leader of the EFF. Now I see the DA have also jumped on a bandwagon. They are saying the two universities are high schools. The honorable
members.
The honorable leader of the EFF saying that the two universities that the ANC has built they are high schools. I think the honorable member of the EFF.
All the honorable members.
That statement that you made in this house, I think it's an insult to every young person that will walk through the gates of that university to obtain their degrees. We have a plan. We have a plan.
All the honorable members.
The honorable leader of the EFF. What does he offer? What does he offer the young people of this country? What does the honorable member of the EFF offer the young people of this country? He offers them snake oil. He offers them snake oil. He is the typical snake oil steel salesman, the honorable leader of the EFF.
All the honorable members.
As we celebrate all these progressive strides that the ANC government have made in youth development, we cannot help but signal the role that was played by the different generations in the revolution. Most notably, the young revolutionary Democrat, a disciplined soldier, the leader of the young people par excellence, Solomon Mahlangu, who was hanged by the brutal apartheid regime. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, he paid the supreme sacrifice with his life for calling for equal education for all, for fighting for the freedom of his people. His last words when he went to face the hangman were, and I quote, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruit of freedom."
All the honorable members.
Tell my people that I love them and they must continue the struggle. Today, as we speak, Honorable Chairperson, it is the blood of Solomon Mahlangu that is nourishing the tree of education in this country. Our post-schooling system is indeed on the right track. Would you like to ask a question, Honorable Member?
All the honorable members. Honorable member at the podium. All the honorable members. Honourable member at the podium, please address the chairperson and don't respond directly to members.
Our democratic government is investing so much in young people, responding to the clarion call which was made by the late President Oliver Tambo when he said, and I quote, "A nation, a country, a person that does not value the youth does not deserve the future." So we are taking into account, we are taking into account that we
Honourable
need
members,
to grow
honourable member
our
at the podium,
economy.
honourable member, will you just take your seat, please? Honourable members, let's allow the honourable member to continue with his speech and not drown him with interjections. Allow him to be heard, just as you want to be heard when you're at the podium. Continue, honourable member.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. By investing in the post-schooling system in general and in both the FET colleges and SITA.
Order, honourable members. Honourable members. Honourable members, you are now disrupting the debate. That is not correct.
Thank you.
5 years in Parliament is a long time. We've just started. Continue, honourable member.
Honourable Chairperson, the noise that comes from this side, the disruptions that come from this side.
Continue with your speech, honourable member.
By investing in the post-schooling system in general and in both the FET colleges and SITAs in particular, our Vision 2030 is crystal clear and has acknowledged some of our shortfalls as a country. Approximately 3 million young people between the ages of 18 and 24 are not accommodated in either the education and training system or the labour market. By 2030, we aim to raise university entrance to 1.5 million, a projected participation rate of 23% as opposed to the 2011 enrollment of 899,120, a 16% participation rate in colleges or other post-schooling institutions. In 1995, only 40,000 students were funded by TEFSA with a budget of 154 million rand. Today, our democratic government has increased the funding from the National Student Financial Aid Scheme to 9.7 billion for 430 students in 25 public universities.
Honourable member, your time has expired. Order. The next speaker is the Honourable Dudley.
Thank you, Chair. Youth in South Africa are young women and young men between the ages of 14 and 35, most of them going through dramatic changes in their life circumstances and facing challenges and threats that are unique to them alone. 42% of the population of this country are under 35, and prioritised attention has been focused on youth development through policies, institutions, and endless programs, yet the challenges and needs of young people seem to increase. Even where policy is good, we lack the capacity to implement it. Young people are telling me that 20 years of democracy in South Africa enhancing youth development means very little to them, especially those who are not in major cities. The biggest challenge, they say, is the lack of opportunity for employment, and we are all painfully aware that statistics reveal very high unemployment amongst all demographics in South Africa, including the youth. Young people are saying that the biggest obstacle is that government is not doing enough to invest in skills development through the secondary education level. Our country needs, they say, and this is very passionate, a young man telling me this, we need artisans, we need plumbers, we need electricians. As a developing country, we need engineers too. Clearly, we have not done enough to convince and fund young people to get the education and skills needed to qualify as artisans and engineers, amongst other things. Greater investment is needed if youth are to get the chance they deserve to escape and avoid the poverty trap. The sectors for education and training authorities created some years ago to address issues of skills development have not had the impact envisioned or required, and adding insult to injury, SETAs continue to underspend their budgets. Now, sadly and very importantly, the agency established by the presidency to deal with youth issues is perceived by young people to have done very little. The NYDA needs a serious revamp to include young people from all walks of life and different political parties if it is to become a credible body. The NYDA does not have a good story to tell, and there are good stories to tell. and a lack of accountability has been one of the main problems. Government agencies must serve all citizens in the country, not just a select few. ACDP Youth continue to call for a greater emphasis on multi-party participation, as they are convinced that this will bring greater accountability and ideas to the agency, with the prospect of more being achieved. It is critically important that people in positions impacting on youth development have the required expertise and knowledge of youth development. A lack of capacity to link youth with skills and finance, even where youth desks exist, seems to be a contributing factor to the lack of success. At a municipal level, youth officers operate with substantial but inadequate annual budgets, which are very quickly exhausted by youth summits or conferences and transport to Youth Day celebration venues, as increasingly youth development is being regarded as an event rather than a process. The bottom line is that democracy and youth programs are costly, and there is no way around it.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Ghana, who's also delivering a maiden speech.
Honourable members, fellow South Africans, I stand before you this afternoon as a proud South African that is committed to build this country and to ensure that everyone has access to opportunities to better the quality of his or her life. I stand before you as a beneficiary of the efforts and heroism shown by the 1976 generation of young men and women. Honourable members, as we celebrate and commemorate Youth Month, we can all agree that the freedom we enjoy today is due in a significant part to the efforts of the youth of 1976. We are harvesting the inheritance left behind by that generation of fearless young men and women. Our duty today is to build on that inheritance and live for future generations an even richer and brighter endowment. However, we cannot get there if we cannot ask and honestly respond to a question that asks whether our individual and collective action as leaders bring hope and inspirations to the millions of young people in our land. I know a lot has been done, yet so much more still needs to be done better and with more honesty. Last week, I read a report about primary school learners having to pay 2 rands to cross a makeshift bridge in the East Rand to get to school. This is 20 years into our democracy. Regularly, we read about many similar stories. I can relate to the struggles of those learners from the East Rand. I myself used to walk 6 kilometers from Lefara to Mhlaba village, crossing a river with no bridge on a daily basis. As this was in the early 90s, perhaps it can be forgiven. But we cannot forgive such difficulties for our young people in 2014, 20 years after the dawn of our democracy. We have to ask what inheritance we are leaving behind to these learners when we cannot give them the simplest instruments to make something of their lives when they are older. What do we expect them to think when they read about the billions of rands that get wasted and stolen each year when they don't have a proper bridge so that they can get to school safely? Will they be wrong to think that their inheritance is being stolen by leaders who are meant to protect and nurture their future? Honourable members, we can't claim to be serious about improving the lives of our young people without improving the quality and access to education. Our education system must be geared towards equipping our learners to act and think independently so that they can be architects of their own exit from their current difficult conditions. We have to make available to them every possible resource so that they can successfully compete with other nations of the world when it comes to scientific and industrial innovations. This means a fundamental shift in the purpose of our education system from preparing people for the labor market to producing scientists, business people, and industrialists. That we have many young people with potential is in no doubt. There are many bright young people who are coming up with many innovative products, but they are not being showcased. For example, we have Ludwig Marishane, a young man from Limpopo. He has developed a waterless bath solution and won Entrepreneur of the Year in 2011. We have many Ludwigs in South Africa, but we need to produce much more and provide better support for their development. If we are to address the youth unemployment crisis that we face as a country, we have to encourage, support, and celebrate innovations by our young people so we can industrialize the products they develop. As we discharge responsibilities as members of this House, as leaders, we must at all times be guided by a desire to ensure that the sacrifice of the 1976 generation, some of whom are in this chamber, is not in vain. The best way to do that is to do all we can to help our young people realize their dreams so they also can receive their part of this rich inheritance. I tireni kutsembeka hi minkarhi hinkwayo tanihi varhangeri va Afrika-Dzonga. Vantshwa I vumundzuku bya tiko reru la Khensa.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Maam Beshlala, who is also delivering a maiden speech.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Ministers, Deputy Ministers present here today, Honourable members of this august House, and guests in the gallery, allow me to greet you all. I am proud to have been given this opportunity of addressing this House on a subject close to me as a former Youth League member, which is the role of the youth in building consciousness and patriotism in order to espouse solidarity and revolutionary commitment. Hence, I made bold to state that I'm the product of a revolutionary movement that has molded me to a state where today I can stand on this podium of this august House. For the youth of today, it is not enough to shout on the sidelines and be content with being the loudest to shout. The answer lies in being involved in resolving the problems of the people. This is the best school that not only defines the place and role of the youth, but it is a school where self-discipline, solidarity with other oppressed people, and revolutionary consciousness is forged. The power of the youth in a nation building is like a double-edged sword, which can swing to either right or left, depending on the intent of the person swinging the sword. Thus, even youth, impatience, you must still be disciplined and guarded. Youth power is the recognized force in the whole world, and therefore, all programs of development and education should focus on the youth, particularly young women in developing countries. Thus, no government worth its salt can ignore the plight of the youth, and I am proud that our government dedicates a paragraph on the place and the role of the youth and talks of youth lens. The lens that cascades to all aspects affecting the youth: health, productive rights, education, employment, and the role in the economy, amongst others. The power of youth can therefore be utilized either as a constructive or destructive force by any nation. But for the youth to be relevant, it must actively participate in the constructive process of engaging all citizens in building social cohesion, economic prosperity, and political stability in an inclusive and democratic way. Fellow lawmakers, Youth Month has rightly become synonymous with the 1976 uprisings, a young group of learners who took the streets in defiance of racist laws being shoved down their throats through school curriculum. Our country is always deeply indebted to the generation of 1976. As product of the youth movement, I have come to cherish the daringness and bravery of the generation of 1976, who were not only content with protests, but dared to join the ranks of our revolutionary army, Umkhonto weSizwe. They are the generation that taken the cuddles from the founding heroes of the Youth League. Heroes of our movement such as Duma Nokwe, Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Anton Limbede, Albertina Sisulu, Nelson Mandela, and Harry Mahoti, to name but a few, who found the path for generations to come in moving South Africa forward. As the 1944 generation showed us, it takes the best of the best to be real revolutionaries. Only revolutionary consciousness will be a catalyst for change, and true patriots can provide remedies for a solution they have studied. Youth aspirations need to be championed by vigor and facts. It would be no use if in our advocacy we reduce our aspirations to sound bites. The youth should not cling to ideas that sound revolutionary. Youth should produce novel ideas that reflect realities and are capable of being sold for the betterment of their own living conditions. Perhaps, honorable members, the youth of today should take our leaf from the tenacity of people such as O.R. Tambo, Duma Nokwe, who in the heights of colonialism, and people such as Nkgopotse Tiro, Steve Biko, in the heights of apartheid, valued education and achieved higher levels of education in difficult subjects. These were revolutionary intellectuals, not because they wore overalls and berets, but because of their deeds. The logo of the ANC Youth League, produced by young MK artists in exile, fascinates me. It states, fight, produce, and learn. This, to me, was a far-sighted invention in the camps of MK. It is relevant to this date. The youth must learn and learn for our country to develop. It must produce and produce for our country to industrialize. It must fight and fight all vestiges of backwardness, diseases, and ignorance for our country to advance to higher levels. If we effectively do these things, the youth will continue to produce greater lawyers like Duma Nokwe. It will produce greater mathematicians and musicians like O.R. Tambo. And these heroes were not just content with their school books. They also fought to change the world and the country to being rid of apartheid. Despite their academic prowess, they studied the nation's problems with vigor and true patriots. Young people in our era need to raise their hands and be counted. In the post-apartheid South Africa, there is no reason not to be patriotic. Avenues to imbue consciousness are plenty. Youths of all creeds need to be visible and combat moral disintegration amongst Africans by upholding high ethical standards themselves. That is the revolutionary commitment to the future of this magnificent country. Since the advent of democracy, many young people have struggled to develop an identity that is South African, rather than one that is geographically, politically, ethnicity, or racially defined. The NYDA must promote the values of good citizenship and patriotism that assist young people to develop a positive identity and connectedness. It should engage a cross-section of young people, unemployed, students, disaffected, disabled, from variety of backgrounds, education attainments, cultures, and religious beliefs. NYDA should therefore seek to expand opportunities for all young people who wish to serve. The NDP dictates the necessity to strengthen youth services program. It is through such programs where young people can forge unity. During his Youth Day address, Minister Nathi Mthethwa highlighted the following. The NDP 2030 alludes to the fact that the youth bears brand of unemployment, he said. The plan identifies the need for growth and jobs, education and skills, as well as development for youth. This can also be realized through the support of initiatives such as the youth enrichment programs as part of youth development in arts and culture. The program will create jobs for young people through skills they will acquire in the duration of the project. DIC has supported youth skills development in Northwest, Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Eastern Cape. This year, The project will be rolled out in Mpumalanga and Western Cape. This was also emphasized in the President Zuma's SONA, wherein he mentioned the need to implement the Youth Accord. This, the Honorable Van Dam labels as crumbs for youth. Well, this label could not be more misplaced. Crumbs are what the DA government does for the young people of the Western Cape. She conveniently ignores the Ministry of Higher Education and Training's direct intervention to tackle what has become a hidden chronic problem of lack of facilities and skills in rural communities. The 10 million skills development by the DHET in memory of Annie Bolzin is such initiative. This has skilled 700 learners in the rural town of Bredasdorp in various fields, making our youth more employable. Honorable Van Dam is Johnny come late in the world of activism and politics in general, so she would have missed this. More importantly, this blatant lack of intimate knowledge shows that only revolutionaries really equip themselves with facts and proper analysis. Those are only found in the ANC.
Honorable Member, your time has expired. Thank you, Honorable Member. Order. The next speaker is the Honorable Pluama. He's also delivering a maiden speech.
Thobela. The revolution of 1976 is the revolution betrayed. The blood of Solomon Mahlangu is no longer nourishing the freedom, it's nourishing corruption.
Order, honorable members. Order.
All I need to say is that you can only howl if you don't want to hear the truth. What we need to change in this parliament is that I'm not here to make friendship.
Order, honorable members.
I'm here to serve my people. What we need to say, I wish one day, if we want to help the young people of this country, the ruling party can take a stand to say no one from their side can be allowed in this parliament with a taint of corruption. As long as we still allow corruption into our public space, none of these wishes that we are talking about will just be a good English. We need a new revolution. And that revolution must start by taking the ANC out if we want to help our people. Can I tell you?
Order, honorable members.
Can I tell you one thing?
Chair.
Order, honorable members.
Honorable Chair.
Yes, honorable member at the podium, will you just sit down, please?
Yeah.
Yes, honorable member, what is your point of order?
Is the honorable member willing to take a question?
Honorable member, are you prepared to take a question?
No.
Order, honorable members.
The only thing that we need to emphasize is that if we want to help young people, we need to start by taking the ANC out. Because you see, where...
Order, honorable members.
You see, the only thing they have managed to do is that whether you get an education, if you want to succeed, this is a survival of the fittest in this country. You need to know somebody. He must be your friend or your family. It doesn't matter whether you have got PhDs or you have got diploma of any kind or sort. So whether you have got a talent or you are gifted, the ANC has created an environment of corruption and connection. You see, we will tell you so that even when you are asleep, your conscience will talk to you. You have failed our young people.
Honorable member, your time has expired. Order, honorable members. Honorable member, I have not called you yet. Can you just wait, please? Honorable members, please, while interjections is allowed, let's not drown the speakers at the podium. Let us not drown the speakers at the podium, and let us give the speakers an opportunity to bring their view across. The next speaker is the Honorable Mbele, who's also delivering a maiden speech.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, real and meaningful youth development and empowerment comes down to three things: quality education, employment opportunities, and entrepreneurial development. These three pillars are where our focus should be when we speak of youth development and empowerment. Now, quite predictably in this debate, only the DA has spoken clearly and compellingly to these crucial issues backed by research and workable policies. My colleague, the Honorable Kasim, was quite right to say that the surest way to empower our youth is through quality, accessible education, because only a quality education is one that equips young people with knowledge and skills to meet the demands of the economy. My colleague, the Honorable Steenkamp, was also very correct to repeat the DA and the DA youth's call for the scrapping of the NYDA. With an annual budget of almost 400 million rand, we have seen minimal value add from this institution. In fact, given that the NYDA is better known for hosting international youth conferences that feature kissing contests, and given that millions have been spent on parties and travel, perhaps it should be renamed from the National Youth Development Agency to the National YOLO and Debauchery Agency. And finally, my colleague, the Honorable Ghana, highlighted very rightly that this country has many bright young people coming up with many innovations. And this aspect of entrepreneurial development is especially key because the entrepreneurs who see a gap in the market and take a risk to offer a new good or service are the catalysts for innovation and growth. They produce true value and new wealth. Now, I have to say that referencing President Zuma, who said in his reply to the debate on the State of the Nation address, he called for ideas to enrich debates. Now, in this debate, from the ANC side, angitholanga lutho okunjalo. Ayikho imicabango ekhona ngalapho. Apart maybe from some waffly compound sentences and history lessons. Now, let me say that while we honor our past, the main priority for our young people is to own our future. And that is the direction we need to head. The Honorable Tobias spoke about how the ANC government invests money into education. Quite right to point that out, but it's not enough to throw money at the problem. You have to get the management of the education system right. And you start by addressing the stranglehold that SATU has on the public education system, especially emalokishini, where that improvement is much needed. The Honorable Dirks, I heard him mention the Freedom Charter. And I would like to remind the Honorable Dirks that in the Freedom Charter it says, there shall be work. Everyone shall have the right and the duty to work. So if you want to reference the Freedom Charter, better make sure you're actually putting it into action. He also spoke about the ANC government delivering quality education. Umbuzo wami uthi kuphi? Where is this quality education? He spoke about how the ANC government has a plan. The ANC government has a plan. Well, quite frankly, that's all the ANC ever seems to have, is plans and intentions. The youth need action. The youth need results.
Honorable Chair.
I'll give you an example.
Honorable Chair.
Since 2010, the Ministerial Committee on the
Order, honourable member. Yes, honourable member, what's your point?
Honourable Chair, I was just trying to find out whether Honourable Mbele will be prepared to take a simple question.
Order, honourable members. Honourable Mbele, are you prepared to take a question?
No, thank you, Chairperson. No, thank you.
Proceed, please.
As an example, since 2010, the Ministerial Committee on the Review of NSFAS recommended the implementation of a legislative framework to give effect to the constitutional imperative of free higher education. 4 years later, we have nothing of the sort, just more policies, more layers of structures and subcommittees, as the Honourable Kasim said. We've had enough of talk, of plans, of intentions. We need action. So in closing, I must say, as many members have said previously, the struggle of the youth of 1976 was for political freedom. Our generation's struggle is for economic freedom. Real economic freedom. And freedom that we can use. And the first step to unlocking that freedom is opportunities. Opportunities that get a young person's feet on the economic ladder and opens the door to a sustained career path. We cannot afford any more delays or dithering in creating these opportunities at a large scale. It must happen now.
Thank you, honourable member. Order, honourable members. The next speaker is the Honourable Deputy Minister in the Presidency.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Order, honourable members.
It is difficult to debate with people who came here by mistake, like Honourable Ploamba of Agang SA, who came here just because Dr. Mampele Rampele was just too tired to come to Parliament. And I think you can hear from the quality of their contribution into this debate that it was just by chance and mistake that Honourable Ploamba found himself on this podium. Honourable Hlengwa says that the ANC has no good story to tell. We have a bulging young black middle class. 3 billion rands have been invested in the National Student Financial Aid Scheme.
Order, honourable members.
700,000 FET enrollments. 12,000 artisans with a target of 30,000 a year by 2030. 90% of enrollment in basic education. 2 new universities. And if you don't know how a university operates, you'll think it's a glorified high school. And if this is not a good story to tell, then we must invest into buying a comic book, because that's where good stories are for you. The NYDA has turned the corner, Honourable Chairperson. The NYDA has invested into a young person called Butlakwana Muleko, who runs a year media farm of Fresh Pty Ltd and grows spinach and Chinese vegetables, which he supplies to the Chinese market and restaurants. He received support from the NYDA. And these are part of the many stories which the NYDA has invested into, which resulted into SMME support, cooperative support, which also resulted into young people not being seekers of jobs, but creators of jobs. So next time, when we open our mouth about what the NYDA used to be, we should remember that the corner has been turned around, and we should applaud the current leadership of the National Youth Development Agency. 20 years ago, Nelson Mandela and millions of South Africans cast their votes for the first time, breaking South Africa from various epochs of land dispossession and loss of humanity and identity for black people in general and Africans in particular. As April 27 dawned, news of less political violence and general ululations were beamed on national television and printed in the mainstream media. A collective sigh of relief was heard the world over as we took the first giant step towards reconciliation, nation building, and economic development. That day, was not handed over to the struggling toiling masses by de Klerk, but was as a result of thousands of cadres who died in prison, exiles, and township. De Klerk could not keep his behind on a hot boiling pot for as long as the country was declared ungovernable and the ANC was preparing itself to govern. Unlike many things, freedom has a price, and our youth have over the years paid that cost. This year, as we celebrate 20th anniversary of and the 38th anniversary of June 16, a narrative is emerging that those who were born in 1994 should be referred to as the born-frees. Dominant intellectuals insist that born-frees are regarded as those who were born on or after the 27th of April and therefore are free South Africans with no birthmarks of influx control, apartheid brutality, land dispossession, economic exploitation, academic exclusion, racialized poverty, loud sirens of hippos and mellow yellow, silent nights of petrol bombs and struggle songs. Because others voted, they were therefore without sin, cordoned into an ideal world that knows no poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Those unlucky amongst them who are still trapped in the cycle of poverty and want, just as their parent did, are told by the Democratic Alliance that they should blame the ANC. It has not delivered for the last 20 years. Or are told by my former comrades in the EFF that the ANC of Nelson Mandela is sold out.
Will you just take your seat, please? Yes, Honourable Member.
Will the Honourable Minister take a question about how he sat and voted for his wife?
Honourable Member. Honourable Deputy Minister, will you take your seat, please? Take your seat, please. Honourable Member.
Yes, Chairperson.
You've asked if the Honourable Deputy Minister will take a question. He has not even considered it yet and you went ahead to ask the question. Will you please respect the Chair?
Sure.
Take your seat, please. Continue, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Yes, there are young people who are plucked out of the doomed future that apartheid has set for them even before they were born. There are young people who today study in mixed-race public and private schools, and some of them are product of these schools and come here and speak very intellectually and say that this government has failed. Yes, there are young people who today have better healthcare, education, housing, security, jobs, and a better life than their parents could have ever imagined. We must contest this narrative of dominant intellectuals. We are a product of history in as much as we are a product of the present. And we bear the scars that were inflicted on our parents since our continent discovered Jan van Riebeeck.
Can I just pose a question to the Honourable Deputy Minister?
Honourable,
we just want to know where is the wife employed.
Honourable Member, it seems to me you have not listened to my previous ruling. I've said you get up and you ask that you want to pose a question. And even before I've recognized you, you go ahead and ask the question.
I'm sorry.
Honourable Member, I'm addressing you. Will you take your seat, please? Continue, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. The radical changes that we see, albeit not enough, are because of the efforts of the ANC-led government and its majority in this parliament. The youth of our country in general are not and should never be regarded as born-free. The concept of being born-free in our context is ideologically fraudulent and is littered with inconsistencies, for it essentially suggests that the struggle ended in 1994. And for us, it is a luta continua. We will only be born free if the hospitals were born in have facilities of the same but better quality. The crashes we go to have the same but better quality. If our schools have libraries, computer labs, science labs, if we have equal chances of graduating at grade 12 through skills and equal access to further and higher education training, and if we live under an equal society and we've fully achieved the transition to a democratic dispensation, then we will be free in the true sense of what Hector Peterson, Coetzee Mashinini, and others went into the street for. They are no born frees. They are only the children of Mandela who are committed and prepared to take forward the struggle initiated by Langalibalele Dube, Pitini, Walter Sisulu, Chris and Oliver Tambo, and many others. This administration has committed itself as part of a radical economic transformation to use its access and leverage to state power, authority, and resources to change the lives of millions of our people so as they free themselves. The lives of young people such as Hector Peterson, Coetzee Mashinini, Hastings Ndlovu were amongst the many that paid dearly for 1994 to happen. And we must never therefore, be patronized that there will be a Messiah who will be born, whether in whatever uniform, who will come and liberate young people, because the youth of this country are their own liberators. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, what happened in Marikana on that fateful day of 16 August 2012 remains inexcusable, and I forced the police service to ensure that it equips itself with tactical training to defuse such situations. We can never ever compare Soweto 76 or Sharpeville murder of our people with what happened in Marikana. This government is taking action to ensure that those who are responsible for that tragedy are held liable for their actions. The Falam Commission has been set up to investigate the circumstances of August 16 and give answers to the families of those who lost life before, during, and after that tragic afternoon. Honorable Chair, we will never ever compete with our former comrades in the economic freedom fighters in the endeavor to break every parliamentary law or rule that has been set or undermine judicial processes set up to bring closer to, for these families, on those who lost their their loved ones. Because none of us will win against what is essentially has become their profession. Never should we compete with them in kicking doors, some of them even kicking open doors, as they have been doing since they arrived in Parliament with their red workers' uniforms.
Chair. Honourable Deputy Minister, will you just take your seat, please? Yes, Honourable Member.
Yes. Honourable Member, may I ask you a question?
Honourable Deputy Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
No.
Honourable Members, may I also just indicate that let us not disrupt speakers by continuously asking for questions in the same speech. If it's quite obvious, order. Order. Honourable members, I've earlier also made a ruling against a member of the ANC. So the same applies to everyone. Continue, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. We should not compete with those who are prepared to even kick open doors since they've arrived in Parliament with their red workers' uniform, which we believe are hiding behind Louis Vuitton shoes, very expensive, matching Gucci belts, and Breitling watches. We must never be fooled, and the workers of this country and the poor of this country were never fooled. And that is why, even if this noise and this sound can appeal to the mainstream media, will never appeal to the working class and the poor who came out in their numbers on the 7th of May to go and vote for the ANC, 62.3% of
Mr. Chairperson. Honourable Deputy Minister. Yes, Honourable Member.
Can I ask a question to the supposed to be
Honourable
real
Member.
communist?
Honourable Member, you don't have permission to ask a question yet. And thus, I'm not going to allow you to ask that question now, because you've ignored the previous rulings. Continue, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair. If someone else can ask for a moment to ask me a question, because I need to drink water at some point. Thank you. These lot, Honourable Speaker, the honourable members have perfected this caricature, this drama. Some of it which they started in their heydays in COSAS and in the ANC Youth League, and now in their own spaza shop called the Economic Freedom Fighters. However, we must challenge the selective solidarity and sympathy.
Order.
Honourable Deputy Minister. Yes, Honourable Member.
I think it's extremely out of order for Bhuti to say the EFF is a spaza shop. It's a political party. I think he must withdraw what he said there, please.
Order, Honourable Members. Honourable Members, let us treat each other with the necessary respect and maintain the decorum of the House. And let us refer to each other as Honourable Members. I will look at the Hansard, and if need be, I'll come back to make a ruling in that regard. Will you continue, the Honourable Deputy Minister?
Honourable Chair.
Order, Honourable Members.
Honourable Chair.
What if he admits and wants to withdraw? Can you give him a
Order,
chance to withdraw?
honorable members.
Please.
Honorable Chief Whip of the EFF, take your seat, please. I've said that I will check the Hansard and I will make a ruling in that regard. And that is the prerogative. Honorable member, will you take your seat? I have not recognized you. And that is the prerogative that I have as the House Chairperson to do so. And I will report back at the appropriate time, if necessary. Now, honorable member behind the Honorable Shavambu, what is your point of order now?
On a point of order, Chair, because I want to check with you if it is parliamentary decorum to refer to people as a lot. It seems to me that there is a level of disrespect and commodification of people there.
Will you take your seat, honorable member? Honorable Deputy Minister, did you refer to anyone in the House as a lot?
No, Honorable Chair.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable Deputy Minister.
What I said was that these lot, the honorable members, so it's a lot of honorable members.
Honorable members, I want to get on with this debate and conclude the debate now. You are now prolonging. You are now prolonging the sitting.
Look.
Order, honorable members.
This comrade is lying. I mean, like, he's lying. He knows what he's trying to...
No.
So, can he withdraw these things he's saying? Because really he must respect people here.
Honorable Shavambu. Honorable Shavambu, will you take your seat? I will... Honorable members, take your seats. I will check the Hansard to see exactly what was said during this input of the Deputy Minister, and if need be, we'll revert to the House to deal with the matter. Let's allow the Deputy Minister to conclude the debate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. We must challenge, Honorable Chair, the selective solidarity...
No, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Member, what is your point of order now?
My point of order is directed to the Honorable Chairperson. It seems I would want to put a question to the Chairperson.
What do you want, Honorable Member?
I want to put a question to the Chairperson.
You want to put a question to me?
Yes.
Order, Honorable Members. Order, Honorable Members. Maybe it's a question of clarity that you seek, but let's give the Honorable Member an opportunity.
I want to know if the Chairperson has lost his right to make instant ruling, as the right bestowed to you as a president.
Honorable Member, will you take your seat, please? That is the prerogative of the presiding officer. Take your seat. Continue, Honorable Member. Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable members on both sides of the House, can we allow the Honorable Deputy Minister to conclude, please?
Unfortunately, this is not a rally. There are rules, regulations, procedures. However, Chair, we must challenge the selective solidarity and sympathy that is given to the workers of Marikana by the EFF. Their choice of solidarity is determined by the membership of the workers whose life was lost. And only AMCU members' lives have been deserving of the solidarity and sympathy of the EFF. Just last week, former AMCU shop steward Aaron Mavimbela was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment, guilty of killing an NUM member, Jack Note, who left behind his wife, Elsa, and her two children, Rupert and Kante. As we meet here today, the challenges facing youth, there's a certain Mr. X who is testifying at the Falam Commission where one of the fighters, Advocate Dalim Pofu, is raking in millions as a representative of the families of the workers. Mr. X has testified under oath that he participated in the torture and murder of two security guards, Hassan Fundi and Franz Mabelan, at the instruction of their Sangoma so that their body parts should be mixed with Intelezi for Honorable Maimani. That's black magic.
Chairperson. Yes, Honorable Member.
May I raise a point of order on the Speaker?
What is your point of order, Honorable Member?
The issue is sub judice on the witness of Mr. X, and that cannot be referred to in the House. the issue of Inyanga. May you rule on that, Chairperson?
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, the matter of Marikana is indeed sub judice. However, the hearings that are taking place in public and has been reported upon. If the matter is sub judice, it does not mean that no member of parliament who enjoys freedom of speech in this house is prevented from referring to the proceedings without prejudging the outcome of the commission of inquiry that is currently sitting.
But Chair, order.
Order, honorable members.
Chair, the Honorable Malima here was evicted out of this house because part of the ruling was to say that the issue is still under investigation. We cannot say that the police killed the
honorable members.
Despite the fact that in the evidence given there, the police admitted to have killed the
honorable member, will you, honorable
Where's the
Shavambu?
consistency? We
Honorable
want
Shavambu.
consistency in terms of the rulings of
Honorable
the chair.
Shavambu, will you take your seat, please?
On a point
Right.
of order, Chair.
Honorable member, what is your point of order?
House Chairperson, I will request your indulgence on the matter. I refer to the rules of the House in terms of Rule 67, where it explains precisely in terms of what is a matter that is sub judice. Secondly, I would want to appeal that when members rise, because they've been disrupting a member who's been on the platform, and also to understand the rules, I think maybe we must just appeal that another rules workshop is run so that we can...
Honorable member, will you take your seat, please? Honorable members, I've given a ruling in the regard and referred in context to what is currently taking place. May I request honorable members that we allow the speaker now to continue so that we can complete the debate. And thank you very much from both sides of the House for interventions to try to assist me in chairing the session. Your advances are noted. However, it will not be entertained any further. I'm not going to entertain another point of order on this matter. Conclude, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. So they had to then go and kill Hassan Fundi, Franz Mabelani, at the instruction of the Sangoma so that their body parts should be mixed with intelezi, animal fat and blood so that they are invisible and invincible when they confront police ammunition.
Chairperson.
Honorable member, are you rising on a new point of order?
Yes, it's a
What is the new point of order?
There is no proof that has been validated by any court of
Order,
law.
honorable member.
There is no proof validated on the allegations made in the Falam Commission on
Order,
the death and
honorable
hacking of
members.
the people that the honorable member is mentioning.
Honorable member,
Thank you.
I'm following very closely what the Deputy Minister is saying. If there's any specific conclusions that he's trying to arrive at. And if that is the case, then I will rule on the matter as it arises. Let's allow the Deputy Minister to continue.
Thank you. These security guards, and I think honorable members must listen carefully when I use the word allegedly. These security guards had wives and children who were excluded from your rants and raves of sympathy because they were not AMCU members, but were allegedly victims of its violence. No union should refer to itself as revolutionary if it instructs that workers' lives should be taken with ease. And any political party that associates itself with such a union and financially supports it should hang its head in shame. 10 people died, including policemen, security guards, and NUM members before August 16. The Fourth Parliament observed a moment of silence and held a debate dedicated to the tragic Thursday afternoon of 16 August 2012. Today, I'd like us to observe a moment of silence to the following workers who were allegedly killed by other workers. Andile Menzi, a young person, a 24-year-old member of the NUM who died in May 2013. Julius Langa, who died on the 13th of August 2013. Sello Lepaku, a member of the South African Police Services who died on the 13th of August 2013. These are not just names or numbers or statistics. These are human beings, part of the 28 workers who died since the strike in Lonmin Marikana, whose names are never mentioned, whose wives and children deserve not your sympathy, not your solidarity, just because they are not AMCU members, but were allegedly massacred individually, as per the testimony, by other unions, by other union members. May their soul rest in peace. But more importantly, if August 16 was a massacre, those who are responsible, whether they are police or not, this parliament will make them to account. And we hope that no political party will jump into conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. You may leave the podium. Thank you. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, during the course of the debate.
Can I ask a question, Chair?
Honorable member.
Just clarity, Chair.
There's to whom?
With due respect to you.
Yes.
Is the Deputy Minister done?
Honorable member, will you take your seat, please? I think that is quite obvious that he has completed his speech. Honorable members, order. There's an important matter, order. There's an important matter that has been brought to my attention that during the course of the debate, that there was reference made to the death of a certain person that has passed away. In terms of the rules, I have considered a request from the Honorable Tobias, who briefly wants to correct the input into this debate. The Honorable Tobias.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. During my speech earlier today, I made mention of the fact that a former member, Honorable Kgaugele Lekgoro, passed on. Actually, it was Comrade Thabo Matlala who worked for Honorable Kgaugele Lekgoro. Therefore, I apologize for the confusion that it might have made. Comrade.
Order. Order, honorable members. You may conclude, honorable member.
Comrade Lekgoro is still alive. I was supposed to mention Comrade Thabo Matlala, so I really apologize for any inconvenience it might have caused. Thank you very much.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, thank you for the correction. Honorable member, that concludes the debate. But there's an announcement that I wish to make. The honorable members, though it was not specifically mentioned when we dealt with the item on the order paper, I want to remind honorable members that the chairperson of the Multi-Women's Caucus will also be an ex-officio member of the South African Parliament's delegation to the SADC-PF once she has been elected. Honorable members, the House is adjourned.